Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 452. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
52. That's a number we're familiar with.
Yeah, we celebrated it when we hit 52. This is 452.
Yeah.
Maybe we do the 552. It's more special. I don't know. But anyway, welcome everyone. It's a DC Comics podcast. We get together. We talk about the books we read this week. Coming up on this week's show, we have Absolute Green Lantern issue 1, Absolute Superman issue 6, Batgirl issue 6, Birds of Prey issue 20, GSA 6, Poison Ivy 32, Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma issue 1, and Two-Face issue 5. So, a healthy amount of books, but it should be a much brisker show than last week's 3-hour plus epic. So,
one can hope.
I suspect it will be. I can't imagine why it would go that long.
Yep.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm thinking 2 hours. It's not like I'm thinking we'll be done in like 65 minutes.
Yeah, no. We're good. There's no deliveries going on. There's, I'm trying to have a very quiet type of day. So yes.
Oh yes, quiet day. So yes, welcome to the show, everyone. Welcome, Matt. I suppose I'll say. How was your week, Matt?
Pretty good. So I found out that my wife has a contempt of Godzilla, or I don't know if it's a contempt of Godzilla or listening to me talk about Godzilla, because I got shushed numerous times. And just being excited. So I've never seen the 80s Godzilla movies. Or if I have, it was on TV when I was growing up. So, and they've been added on Max, and I was just trying to be very excited.
Have you actually watched any of them yet?
Oh, no, not yet. So, I was just trying to tell her that she fights Godzilla fights a plant monster in one of them, and I was just very excited. And she goes, "Shh, I'm watching Bravo." Or, "Why are you doing this right now?" So, yeah, she's just being a hater.
Well, yeah, that's that. I this week did a top 50 TV shows video for YouTube.
Hey, let me guess what one.
I will not spoil which one, thank you very much.
If you know Pete and you've been watching as long, that you kind of have a guess that it's dead. I would bet it's one show in particular. Well, it could be one or the other. Both involve the same creator, though. So
I will spoil nothing, but it was a 2-part thing. The first part was actually last week, but the second part was much longer. I went 2 hours doing the top 25 of said top 50. My voice was absolutely done by the end, because here's the weird thing is when you're not bouncing back and forward with someone else and you're just talking the entire time, it really starts to grate in your throat after a while, I noticed.
Much like when I'm trying to talk to my wife about Godzilla. Same thing.
Get her on the couch, like we're watching Godzilla versus Biollante. Just deal with it, right? We're even at the time traveling ones with Mecha King Ghidorah yet, so we'll get to those.
Yep.
That's it. I mean, to be fair, there's only a couple of 80s ones, because it's very quickly they're into the 90s, because Biollante is like 89.
Yeah, well, when I say the 80s, I'm talking about the Godzilla Return that came out in 84, right? It's known as the Heisei era, as opposed to the Showa era, and then the more modern stuff. Yeah, there's like 7 movies. I don't think I might have caught some pieces here and there, right? Growing up.
Is that first one is 84 one of the ones get added to Max?
Yep.
That is very surprising, because that has been not... The rights issues with that have been such a mess for decades that it's not been available in any form in the US or a lot of countries for that matter, for literally decades.
Which is why I'm excited, because when I went to go through, and I was asking you last year about which Godzilla movies, right? In the like some of the lower key ones, that was on the list. And I couldn't find it anywhere. Like I couldn't even rent it from anywhere. And then as I'm looking through Max the other night, it was there. So I don't know if it's a mutant cut of something for the rights, or like it's an American version, like some of the other ones that come through.
I do,
but I'm going to watch it.
I don't know how much of a... There may have been a slightly different cut. I don't know if there was much of a different cut. It definitely had a slightly different title and was released in 85 in the US. So I don't know. I presume it might be that version that's on Max, if there is one. But even that wasn't available for decades, just because the rights issues were so weird. The fact that it's there is maybe a positive sign that maybe they've finally got it figured out, and we might actually see some home releases of it at some point. But I don't know. But then again, your Godzilla's going to cost about 3 times as much with all the tariffs because he's Japanese. So
Yes.
good luck with that.
Where is this one? They better not have taken it off.
Oh.
It's been 3 days since I've had this conversation.
I wonder if you saw something and mistook something for something else.
I saved it. I'm going to go to my Max account. I saved it because I'm going to try to watch it tomorrow when I have to work overtime, which I know is always a weird thing. I have to go work overtime, but I'm going to sit and watch movies. You just have to be a body. It's great.
You're chaperoning a building is basically what you're doing.
Essentially, just in case anything goes wrong, someone's there to, call the fire department or whatever, you know? Not that, that's only happened once. So, it was a false alarm though. But yeah, let me see while we're doing this. Yeah. Again, if I got excited for nothing again, I'm going to be so mad. Yeah, but I know Biolante's on there because I did save that one for sure.
Yeah. Now, Biolante onwards have been available in some form or another. But that original, but the 1984 one of that era, I saw that because I had to go looking for it in ways that I will not admit to on a podcast because it was the only way to find it.
Right.
Yes.
Big wink for me. Oh my god, my Max app is not. They changed everything around and I can't find my list. So, Speed's on right now. You can stop and watch Speed if you want, Pete.
Which is on right now. It's a streaming service.
So when they updated, when they updated the Max app, you can do the live what's airing on HBO right now. And it just started. It's 20 minutes in, but yeah, The Return of Godzilla, 1984. It is on there.
Okay.
Oh, I don't watch that tomorrow before it disappears. I'll tell you that much. But because knowing my luck, I've done that before.
Yeah, Return of Godzilla is the American title, I think, because I think it's just Godzilla 1984, the original title.
Yeah, but either way, again, and I told her too. I guess I said we both enjoy watching monsters, just very different ones. As she's watching old ladies argue over.
She likes watching Kevin Spacey.
To parties. Nah, I'll go out of my way to poke fun at my wife, but no, I think Kevin Spacey takes it too far.
It was just the funniest joke I could think of when you said she likes watching monsters. It was just the first thing when I went to. Speaking of,
she never wants to watch Seven, so
Speaking of, Matt, did you see the teaser trailer for the new Naked Gun movie?
I have not seen it yet, but I've seen the poster with Liam Neeson.
Yes. Liam Neeson is Frank Drebin, Police Squad. Or more specifically, he is Frank Drebin Jr. of Police Squad.
I love it.
I wasn't sure how I felt about it for the first half of that teaser, but there is a gag at the end that is actually really good.
The idea that Liam Neeson's got to be close to 70, right?
Oh yeah. Well, here's the thing: the last Naked Gun movie came out in 1994. Liam Neeson had already done Schindler's List at that point, so he's already pushing 40.
Just the idea that a near 70-year-old is playing a junior of a established. That's very funny.
Oh dear. Yeah. I don't know. Mildly optimistic, I will say. But why I'm surprised is it's kind of like a sort of semi sequel because it's kind of acknowledging the originals existed in the weird way that a Naked Gun movie would. But it's using the same poster style, the same font. Like it's actually they're definitely trying to appeal to people who know the original, which is interesting. So,
is it just called Naked Gun or is there a subtitle?
It's just the Naked Gun, but in the trailer, when he breaks the fourth wall and says, "This is the Naked Gun," he sort of pauses and goes, "The new one."
See, all right.
So, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm intentionally not spoiling the gag that made me laugh at the end, though.
Yes, but I will check that out when we're done recording, for sure.
So that was the thing.
Lots of news that came out from, what is it? Was CinemaCon? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, although weirdly, the CinemaCon was on the 1st of April, so there was like a lot of like, is this real? Is like, oh yeah, there's a convention on. Oh, this is a stupid day for a convention because I can't trust anything that's being said. No, okay.
I didn't realize Val Kilmer actually died until checking with multiple different sources. because of course he had to die on April 1st.
That would be a shitty thing to do on April Fool's Day about.
Yeah, but you never know. You know what I mean? So people post stupid stuff all the time. So when it came across my feed, I was like, and then turned out it was true, and it's very sad. And now I need to watch Tombstone, sometime soon.
Wait, he was in a DC movie, Matt. Go watch Batman Forever like a proper DC fan.
Every time I want to watch Batman Forever, you yell at me and tell me that it's not worth my time.
I mean, it's a stupid movie.
I love it though. He's pre-Bale. He was my favorite Batman. So I love Kilmer as Bruce and as Batman.
I actually watched Forever and Robin last year, because I bought all the old ones on Apple, and annoyingly they all have really good HDR, so they're really nice looking. And I'm like,
yeah,
what? There's movies that don't get this treatment. Why is Batman Forever and Batman and Robin getting this level of amazing video quality? It's upsetting when other classics are being left out with mediocre transfers. I don't know. I'm being a movie nerd now. Anyway,
you are very much, but yes. But trying to think of some of the other movie news. I mean, there's one that I'm sure you'll want to wait to talk about.
Oh yeah,
till we get through.
Yes, potentially. John Wick 5's going to be a thing.
He better be fighting demons. Do what's right, guys. Don't undo this. Don't make it. Try not to spoil 4 too much. But
it's surprising news. We'll just say that it's surprising news. But
yes,
yeah, I don't know. It's a weird week. There's a lot of. I mean, I know you're not into video games, and I'm not even into this side of video games because I'm not a Nintendo person. But Nintendo announced their Switch 2 this week, right? Showed off their new games, all the usual stuff, and they announced the price, and it was a bit higher than maybe it would have been because of all the tariff stuff. Now they announced in this news and all the prices and stuff on April 2nd, which was the same day that a new round of tariffs got announced. So the very next day, they put out a statement saying, "Oh, we're delaying the pre-order date whilst we consider what to do with these tariffs." So there's a very strong chance that the US price for the Switch 2 is going to go up again, despite already being bigger than maybe what some people thought. And the games are more expensive. We're getting $80 video games now, so that's a fun thing. And this actually does affect comic books, potentially, in a number of ways. Someone on our Discord showed off a comment from Mark Wade. I think this was related specifically to collected editions. Is that if things don't get turned back soon, you're probably going to see a lot of things that have been solicited get cancelled because of this stuff.
Great. So all things that I like, well, not all, most things, coffee, comic books,
yes.
thanks. Because, buy American. How do you buy American coffee? That we can't grow it here. You need a mountainous region in the tropics. All right? I mean, one state can. All right? Hawaii, but that's already expensive. Kona coffee's expensive. I'm so mad.
And it's affecting other things that I'm not into, like, but other nerdy things, like any kind of like tabletop, like gaming or trading cards sort of stuff. They all come from outside the country and whatnot. Now, in theory, a lot of this shouldn't affect me. Although in some cases it is for some reason, because like everyone just puts the prices up to match the US, the bastards. But
right, but you're also capable of empathy, and it sucks, man. Dumb.
No, I mean, this is the thing. Like, there's a chance that with the Switch 2, they might have like priced like the Europe and like other regions to maybe maybe not put the US up as high as it should be and offset it by increasing the price a little bit in other territories. They might not have done that, but they might have done. If they put the price up again for the US, I think it will just be the US, because they've already announced the prices for everywhere else. And at this point, it's very easy for Nintendo to just point at the tariffs and go, "That we're not making this extra money. This extra $100, $200 that's going to added on isn't going to us." Like,
so there has been here in the States, there has been a bipartisan response to this, where it's like, this is stupid. Which, all things considered, the fact that there is a bipartisan response So hopefully things can get adjusted. Hopefully we can get these things before too much damage is done. That said, $600 for the Switch. I just bought my Switch 1 last year for not even close to that. And we really only play Mario Kart on it. So
I mean, for the record, right now it's supposed to be 450, but
yeah,
it could be going up to maybe even 600. Like that's kind of like what we're talking about here.
That's definitely gonna miss me with that. I was already not the target, being that again, I just bought a Switch. But Mario Kart 9, I'm kind of addicted to 8. And
technically, well, it's not actually called a number, it's just Mario Kart World. But technically, Nintendo count it as 10 because there was a mobile one that they count as 9. Just
gotcha.
Because eventually they'll use a number again, and everyone will go, "Wait a minute, they skipped a number," and it's like, no, there's that mobile game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because the one that I have is definitely 8. I know that much. But yeah, so I'm not trying to get to. I mean, I'm always behind on games, as it were, right? Like I bought a PlayStation 4 2 years before the 5 dropped, right? So finished Spider-Man, finished Fallen Order, haven't touched it since.
Hey, Matt, if you had any interest in a PS5, I'd maybe do it in the next week before the tariffs all kick in, because it's about to go up in price.
Yeah, great.
Oh, dear.
So stupid. I mean, for all the people that scream freedom, this is sure the opposite, right?
Well, that's the funny thing, is that, like, in gaming in particular, there's a lot of assholes, right, who make a fuss whenever there's like a character who isn't a straight white guy in a game. Oh, this is just woke nonsense because of this, or this. And it's all awful, it's all noise, and you kind of zone them out. But those people tend to really hate whenever like a gaming podcast or a news site or whatever talks about the politics in a video game, and they say keep politics out of gaming. However, now the politics are actually getting in the way of the video games and making everything more expensive, and it's all due to that. So
and everything they have issues with is opinion based, whereas like it doesn't actually impact you playing the game. You're just being a jerk about stuff. This actually, it's going to impact how you play the game.
Yes. And of course, some people are digging in their heels and saying, well, people don't need a new video game console anyway. It's just more e-waste, and, people should be supporting industries that are inside the country. I'm like, what? So you're just giving up video games now because you don't want to admit that you voted wrongly? Okay, go on.
Yeah, but last year they were blaming that administration for all the prices going up, and now prices are actually going up. They go, you know what? I can actually do without. And it's like, well, this I'm going to end up getting into a fight over something stupid like this. I already know.
No, it's mind numbing. It's downright soul destroying, and the patience is wearing thin.
Are you sure we're not living in the absolute universe now? Darkseid won. Everything's been reformed. Now everything is terrible.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to argue that we're in the absolute universe at this point. Things are looking rougher. Anyway,
dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
One can only hope that all the other countries just see a bit of sense and maybe, I don't want to say all unite against America, but maybe America can maybe use a telling off at this point.
It's like this, man. When you have a friend that gets really into drugs and you don't step in and it's starting to hurt themselves, you're just as culpable, right? America needs an intervention. So
yeah, that's just
get off that drug.
Yeah, because there's just like electronics, right? You can like see chips that are used in basically every sort of technological device that exists now: smartphones, TVs, video game consoles, computers, whatever. Like they're all made in these countries that are getting heavily tariffed. And the argument that should just be made in the US was okay, but that literally takes decades of infrastructure to get to that point. Like,
because low key, it's not actually about bringing stuff to the United States. It's about destroying the economy enough that other people can reap from it. Because people still got rich in the Great Depression. It was just the wrong people.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about. It's all a front. It's not actually about putting America first. It's about putting,
of course,
certain amount of people up. So it's ridiculous because I've seen that. That's like just get American coffee. Okay, but that's just, you don't know what you're talking about. Cool.
Yeah. Buy an American TV. Matt, name me an American TV brand. Go on, I dare you.
I didn't know any before all of this. Like before the innovator, every TV I've ever owned, it was like a Sanyo or a Samsung, and this goes back 20, 30 years.
Yeah, they're all
Sony,
either Japanese or Korean. Those are the two countries that make all the TVs.
Yeah. Well, and so I drive a Toyota truck, right? And even those are assembled in other countries. It's not just Japan. They assemble them in Canada and Mexico. Like so even then it's a group effort. And so how's that going to be? So are people going to be trying to buy my junky old 20-year-old truck? Right? Because it's one of the older ones. I don't know, man. There's so much.
Yeah. So let's turn into a bit of a rant. The state of the world's bringing a lot of us down, as
terrible.
Is clearly evident in this conversation, and the fact that it's now because this is the thing. As much as I don't care about Nintendo, the fact that they're now starting to have to charge $80 for games means that the other companies are going to jump to it. Now that one's broke the barrier, the others are going to do it. Yep. We're all going to more expensive things. It's like one thing when it starts affecting stuff that you need. So you're mad that foods went up, but you need to eat, so it's whatever. But when it starts affecting the things you like and the stuff that gives you a reprieve from how bad the world is, it's like, oh no, now it's personal. Like now the fighting's coming. It's I don't know. Anyway. No,
you're absolutely right. It's not like you said. When it's stuff that you need, you kind of just grin and bear it because it's food, it's whatever, it's gas, it's electrical, all that type of stuff. But when it seems to be luxuries and then it hits it, then it starts to be infuriating because it's like, well, how am I supposed to distract myself from all the BS that's going on? It just throws it into there. And yeah, man, it's just, ugh. Yeah. So let's talk about comics.
Yes, let's talk about comics, and hopefully
while we still can afford them.
Hey, hopefully if they do have to jack up the prices, digital doesn't get jacked up as well, because it shouldn't.
Well, and that's the hidden cost and everything. Once the prices go up, they never come back down.
That's true. No, that's true.
So, like, I remember I used to get comics. I used to get a stack of comics 15 years ago for the same price that I buy 4 comics for now. It's something that's always gonna go up. So now you start adding all this other stuff. It's gonna be $8 for a regular comic soon. Like, that's unsustainable. It's gonna kill the industry.
Yeah. No, I mean, a lot of industries are going to crash, specifically in the US. They're going to crash because of this stuff. Should it maintain? And because it keeps flip-flopping, it's like, oh no, maybe we won't do those tariffs. Oh no, we're going to do them 3 times as big now. Oh no, I've changed my mind again. Oh.
Look, I have my conscience that I had zero part in any of this. So, again, I am free to complain.
Oh, sure.
Because I believe the opposite. So, Yeah.
I'm just, you know what? If you're in the US and you didn't bother to vote last time, just, if your games are going up, your comics are going up, whatever it may be, just remember that next time. Give it some thought.
Yeah, you did it to yourself.
All right. Yes. Amazon Kindle rankings, formerly known as the ComiXology Top 10. Yeah, this is not an endorsement of Bezos, for the record. This is just the only option.
Oh, God, screw him too. He's even worse. I mean, he's not even worse, but he's definitely part of the problem and part of the solution.
He's part of the whole group of them, but I mean, I think Musk is definitely at least more annoying.
Oh, absolutely. God, I hate that man. Like, I don't hate Bezos. I'm annoyed by Bezos, right? But the other one I hate. I really do not like him. So.
All right, Kindle rankings then. What are you guessing for number 1?
All right, so the 2 absolute books, this is becoming more of a normal thing anymore. Which one? Do I go with the number 1 or do I go with the established? I'll go with the established and say Absolute Superman.
That is correct. That is correct. Absolute Superman is number 1.
Right.
Number 2 is Absolute Green Lantern, so it wasn't doing badly either. Right in there, people are checking them out, seemingly, on the digital side anyway. Number 3 is X-Men. Number 4 is Daredevil, Cold Day in Hell. Number 5 is JSA. Number 6 is Immortal Thor. Number 7 is All New Venom. Number 8 is West Coast Avengers. 9 is Secret Six. Okay.
Wow.
And number 10 is Psylocke. Looking for the other DC books, Atom Projects at 13, Resurrection Man is at 14, Batgirl's at 15, Birds of Prey is at 16. So they're all kind of clumped up there, not too much below the top 10. But it definitely... Marvel heavy top 10. A couple of the DC books are kind of weird, the ones that made it, but the top two being the absolutes is a nice consistent thing anyway, where those seem to be doing well. Because even Absolute Martian Manhunter, I heard, did some surprisingly well rankings wise. So,
yeah. Shocked about Secret Six #2. I mean, good for mains, you know. But yeah, shocked that that's there.
Yeah, just surprising. But hey, you know, if people are enjoying it, I can't really complain. So no, and then Poison Ivy's down at like 21 or something like that, or no, 26 even. So
right. That's the stack of those. I went in my shop this week because I had some time. The stack of the Ivy books, it's still pretty healthy, but again, I feel like that has to do with variants and whatnot. So
it's the variants and perverse, yes.
Oh, I'm not going to say the second one because it might be indicative of the person going through the stacks of variants, right?
Were you given a nice thorough look, a nice thorough browse of those variants, Matt?
I might have. I'm not going to commit to yes or no.
Comic book employee was turning them one by one, and you were like, slower, do it slower.
Look, no, they know just to have them all ready by the time I walk in. Right? Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Little cart, little 2 doors open. Here's your smut, Mr. Matt. All right. Well, as far as anything else DC related before we get to the books, there was a 5-minute preview of Superman this week. It was basically just like a scene from the movie.
An extended, yeah.
Yeah. I did not really watch it. I sort of skimmed it a little bit and saw a couple of things and saw the sizzle reel at the end. I didn't really want to watch it all the way through because I'm like, this is just a scene. Like, I'd rather just see this in the movie proper.
So I've talked about how Crypto kind of resembles one of my dogs. And so I waited till I got home to watch it on my TV instead of watching it on my phone. Betty was cued in on Crypto. So we watched the whole scene. And did I cry? Maybe. It just, I can't help it. The emotion seems like it's there. The stuff with Superman interacting with the robots, everything feels proper, right? My wife goes, let's watch the Man of Steel trailer and watch you get mad. I said, why would you do that? Why would you want that?
Hey,
why are you trying to ruin my day?
To be fair, the first teaser trailer for Man of Steel is the best thing about that movie.
Oh, it is, but then it's going to bring up all the bad memories, and then I have to see Cavill, you know, and the wasted potential there. It's just, you know, it's angerfying. It riles up the blood. Still can't make sense of what the actual story is going to be, which is pretty okay, right? Like in a like we're very tapped into DC and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't mind not knowing this. I don't think that's even a complaint to say that there's.
No, I'm not complaining. It's the marketing around it is very smart right now. Because again, there's a scene with a kaiju, and there's the beat up Superman in the snow that we saw with Crypto, and we see Luthor up to something. Have no idea what the story might even be, and that's great, especially now where all marketing just wants to tell you everything right up front, you know, and there's not a lot of room for surprises. So I do like that as we're getting closer, nothing much else is coming out. Also, Corn Sweat looks really good. He looks like a proper Superman. I say he's not too big. You know, Cavill kind of looked. Yeah, I mean, I think that was the aesthetic. He was a very bulky kind of Superman.
Yeah,
but Corn Sweat looks like a regular. Yeah, he has big shoulders. Like, again, I think he grew up playing rugby, which makes sense, right? He has that form. So I'm not taking the girth bait, Pete.
We'll talk about it. There was no bait. Are you talking about girth, Matt, you sicko?
Yes. See, there it is. But yes. Calvil's a girthy man. But yeah, Corn Sweat, and then Holt as Luthor. He looks snivelly, and I love it.
Steve Holt? Steve Holt's in this movie?
Not Steve Holt. It's a Nick Holt.
I just said Holt. I got excited.
Yep.
Got excited for Steve Holt.
Who's Steve Holt?
Steve Holt.
Oh.
Arrested Development for people who can't watch me do the thing with the arms to make it clear.
I forgot about that. But yeah, no, it looks good. The music's also up there. It hits those. There's a bit of the John Williams in there. So
a bit of. It's entirely John Williams, just an electric guitar.
Yes. That's why I said it's a bit.
It's not a bit. It's like 99% John Williams.
It feels nice. So I'm very, very happy.
So John Williams cake with like a little bit of icing on top from someone else. Well, why are you laughing at that, Matt? What's wrong with it?
No, just because I know I want cake, and I was trying to think of something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. I've made you think of cake. All right.
Well, I just like I don't like a lot of icing. All right, so John Williams, mostly John Williams cake with very little icing sounds great. I'm just saying.
No, icing's good. Well, icing's whatever, but frosting, like the frosting at the edges of a cake. Now that's the stuff.
I'm not a fan of buttercream. Give me the cream cheese frosting or nothing.
Oh. Cream cheese? No. You don't put cream cheese on cake. That's an American thing. No.
Yes, cream cheese. No, cream cheese frosting is very much a thing, Pete. It's all the best cakes have cream cheese frosting.
I mean, if that's what's being used in cakes here, I have never heard of it, and it's never been pointed out to me. But I taste no cheesiness in any of my cakes.
Yes, cream cheese. You've had cheesecake though, right?
I've had cheesecake, but cheesecake doesn't taste like frosting on cake.
No, so exactly, it tastes better because frosting's not good. It's just straight sugar and no, thank you.
Frosting's great. The frosting put.
Yeah. So when you get a cupcake, you eat the frosting?
Of course I eat the frosting. It's the best part.
Yeah. No, see, I give mine to someone else. Here, take this. I want the bread. I want the sweet bread.
Okay, well, cake's not bread.
It's a strawberry cupcake. Oh.
Cake is not bread. If bread is...
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. If you think it's like bread, then your cake's shit, okay?
It's a sweet bread. It's not bread in the sense that yeast is made to leaven, because it's not. Baking soda or baking powder is used to leaven cake, right? And that's what gives it the crumb. However, cake is classified as a sweet bread because of that it's made with flour.
Oh, okay, fine. On a technical level, there may be some truth to that.
Yes.
But there's a reason why a bagel's a bagel and a donut's a donut. And one is bread, the other is not bread.
No, a bagel is bread. It's just you have to soak it in that solution first, and that's what makes it chewy.
No, I agree a bagel's... I'm saying bagel's bread, the donut's not bread.
Yes. Oh, true. I guess that proves the point because I immediately went to bagel. But also, I also like cake donuts, which are very bready. I don't like the raised ones that much. Those are kind of But a good cake donut, oh man.
Well, a cake donut, yeah, but that's cake rather than bread. I get what you're saying, that cake is technically a sweet bread, but it's not bready. Bread has a very different ripping texture to it than cake, is my point. Like, if I bit into a cake, I might say it's bad because it's too bready. And I don't mean that it's crumbly, I mean that it's just not... It's not soft enough like cake.
Yeah, that means someone messed up the mixture, because you can have a good bready cake.
No, bready's bad. The only thing I want to be bready is bread.
So you never had a bun cake? Bun cake's a good kind of bready. It's real moist and there's some bounce to it.
No, I've never had a bun cake. I don't like a bready cake.
Oh man.
Oh no.
It's like a brownie. Oh man.
Brownies aren't bready. Brownies are dense.
Oh, a good chewy, yeah. Like a chewy. Yeah, I like mine half and half. My wife likes them real chewy. I don't like them real chewy. Like a little bit of air in there. Yeah.
Okay, right, this is a stupid conversation. We're moving on. It's time for books.
I just want to see how much longer I can get you to go, because we all know Pete can get pedantic, and I love that about you. So I just want to see how much longer we can keep going.
I'll get pedantic about sweet treats. Don't you worry.
Yes.
I have opinions.
Know. Our first real conversation on the internet happened over sweets. Down in the old Facebook group, there's like a treats thread. So
also,
yeah.
I watched a movie recently where it was a concoction with pancakes and lots of other things, but the main thing that stuck out to me is in this big giant, horribly unhealthy breakfast they were making, there was both sausages and cream. Those should not be mixed ever.
Wait.
Uh-huh.
Like they were pouring the cream onto the sausages?
Well, it wasn't directly. I mean, the sausages were in between two pancakes, but still, when they were taking bites, there'd have been cream and sausage like colliding for sure.
Oh no! What is that?
I mean, even syrup on sausages. I know you put syrup on bacon, and that kind of works, but like.
No, I mean I know people that have put syrup on sausage, right? Like breakfast sausage and stuff. But it's not for me, but it's not unheard of.
But a can of cream, like squishing it all on top, that's psychotic behavior.
That's definitely different. I have a friend that eats pancakes with peanut butter instead of syrup, and that's weird to me. Like, again, I understand.
I know, I get that. That makes more sense to me, because that's at least something. Because I think peanut butter is better in a sweet thing than it is like on a sandwich. I think peanut butter and chocolate makes more sense to me than peanut butter on bread.
No, I get that, but I just I've heard peanut butter, but I've never heard like cream on breakfast. Like that's. No, so weird.
I can see cream on a pancake. If it's just pancake syrup and cream, that makes sense to me. But as soon as you've introduced a meat, like the cream does not belong there anymore.
I feel like it would make the pancake way too soggy. Like
no, not really.
Yeah, which I like cream like you had to your coffee, right?
No, like a can of cream, like a squishy cream, like a.
It's like a condensed milk kind of vibe.
No, like a can that you shake and it comes out all frothy.
Oh, you're talking about like whipped cream.
Well, that's not whipped. No, whipped cream's actually whipped.
Yes, it's like Ready Whip. It's in the can. It goes, when you said squishy, I got very confused, but you're making the sound.
Yeah, we go.
Yeah,
that's the sound.
Yeah. No, that on a breakfast, but get the sausage away from that.
It doesn't belong with sausage.
What in the name of diabetes are we doing?
Like that and a pancake with syrup, yes, absolutely, or a waffle even, like a waffle with cream, for sure, right? I completely get that. But as soon as you've introduced meat into the equation, the cream does not belong there anymore.
No more.
Also, any pretense that that's a breakfast is out the window. It's now just dessert, right? I love cream. I love pancakes and waffles and all that shit, but it's dessert.
Yeah, so we go to a place out here in town called Baby Stacks, and they have a Bananas Foster's pancake that my wife gets. At that point, it's just dessert. Like it's the bananas, the bananas done up with the caramel sauce and the whipped cream and all of that other stuff. At the same time, I also get banana chocolate chip pancakes. But I have enough decency not to put syrup on them. So it's still breakfast.
Practically
you don't need them. They're sweet enough. Yeah. Never could. No offense to vegans. Never. I'm like Ron Swanson when it comes there. Give me the meat.
All right, now that everyone's hungry, let's get into the comic books. All right.
Yeah.
Absolute Green Lantern, issue 1. Al Ewing writing with Jahnoy, Lindsay on the art. So, I was very curious to see what this would be. Obviously, the cover... it was obviously a black woman who is the Green Lantern, seemingly, and we find out in the book that it's Joe, and that maybe that was news that was out there, but I'd been avoiding it, so this was all a surprise to me. But we don't actually start with her. We start with Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan's in this book, as is John Stewart, and we don't meet him, but there is a Guy Gardner referenced.
Yeah, I will say, I will get out there. I trust in Ewing, right? I've read enough things from Ewing that I enjoy. It is a little bit weird in the Ultimate Universe that all the Green Lanterns seemingly work together in this small town, or are all aware of each other, right? A little bit odd.
Well, not even just aware. They seem to be like an old friend group for the most part. At least some of them, anyway.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I actually think that's one of the best little changes. I think that's like an interesting idea. It's like, they already know each other. They don't meet because they're Green Lanterns.
I just think it's weird because they're all from different walks of life. That's what I always kind of like about the different Lanterns, and that. So all of them being from this small town, it was a little bit weird. Again, nothing about the quality because everything's fine. It was something that popped up as I was reading.
Yeah, I don't think that's weird at all. I actually think that's like a smart change if you want to include multiple of those characters, because otherwise it'd be weird to have them all run into each other like very quickly. So we start off with this kind of ominous thing where we keep going back to this black panel with just like a white circle or a ring, perhaps you might say, with this voice speaking to Hal Jordan. But he's like stumbling down the road. A cop car pulls up and asks if he's okay. He's walking in the desert. It's not really a safe or good idea. And he keeps having his hand in his pocket kind of awkwardly, and the cop gets a little edgy about it and says, "Hey, what have you got in your pocket there? Is it, is it drugs? Is it a weapon?" And he pulls out his gun, he points at him, and Hal's like, "Please don't, please don't." And the cop's yelling at him, like, "Take his hands out, slowly, so on." And then it just goes black, and then there's a full page after that where there's just like a little crater and some smoke of where the policeman was standing before. He is dead. So, like, right away, we're doing this thing where, okay, Hal Jordan, not that he's a villain per se, because it's not really his fault. He's obviously infected or he's attached to by something that we get to. But, like, he is not the hero of this story. He is not the one who is, like, get in the ring and, try to save the day. That's not what we're doing here. So, right away, sets up something interesting. And, he stumbles into a diner, and, they're fairly nice to him, but this news report comes on about Greenvale, which is the town that all the lanterns are from. And there's a giant Green Lantern symbol that's, like, sort of basically just landed.
It's Evergreen.
Oh, sorry, Evergreen.
Yeah.
What did I call it?
It's Evergreen. Greenvale. Which, not a bad name. But yeah,
mine's just filling in the blanks. So... yeah, giant Green Lantern symbol has just crushed like an entire like city, like couple of blocks. So there's news broadcasts about it. No one knows what it is. It's kind of this weird thing. And then we flash back to what was happening when this happened. And this is when we get to see Hal when he's normal and he's not like scared because he's trying to control this thing that's attached to him. And he's sitting with John Stewart. He's sitting with Joe. And they're talking about why she's back in town. She's moved back from the city. She was in Coast City. They also talk about how that guy tried to offer her a place back in the Force, which says that she used to be a cop, which lines up with what she was in the regular universe to some extent. It also tells us that Guy is currently a cop, most likely. So
checks out.
And everyone's like, at least she's mad at him, which also feels like it's just right for Guy Gardner. Not seen yet, but the attitude towards him is adding up and makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. So that's a whole thing. So yeah, but there's this, the green bubble appears, clearly a construct of some kind. I did kind of like this idea though, that they don't really know what it is, and they're kind of inside this green bubble, and they're kind of saying, oh, it's kind of like a force field that you'd see in a movie or something. Like I kind of like them trying to like just sort of talk their way through what the hell it is.
Yeah, I like that Hal goes and touches it, and he's like, it's like spongy, but you can't get through it, and that's what he says, like a force field. So that was a fun way to interact with it. Yeah, because I never really thought what a construct feels like, right? We just look like they're a solid kind of thing, but I've never really stopped to think about what it'd be like to touch one.
I figured it could be hard or spongy depending on what the construct was.
Yeah.
But this seems to be going for spongy for this force field at least. And so when they're inside the bubble talking, there's this green tint over all the panels to sort of give you this idea that they're inside it, which is kind of neat. But they look up into the sky, they see the big Green Lantern symbol coming down, and we get a look at Abin Sur, who Hal had already mentioned. He mumbles to himself at one point, oh, Abin Sur came down. And Abin Sur looks very different. He's got like a giant sort of tail from his head kind of thing. He's also got an extra pair of arms.
Extra pair of arms, no clothing.
No clothing.
Like, nothing there.
Or genitals.
Yeah, he kind of, and he's built like a Ken doll, looks like. Looks kind of like Saint Walker, right? Meets Gore from Thor.
Oh, so I can see the Saint Walker comparison because of the head thing. Yeah, I can see that.
So definitely not the pink bald-headed dude that I'm used to with Abin Sur.
No, and it's definitely not like a crash landing in the same way that normally, because he doesn't look like he's in distress as he's landing here.
No,
at least right away anyway. But like Hal's sort of mumbling to himself, and he's also acting suspicious to these people in the diner, so they start to freak out about him and ask him questions. The one pulls a gun on him, and then when the guy pulls his hand out of his pocket, we see it's black. So we get this idea that this is the absolute version of Black Hand, is something that's actually attached itself to Hal Jordan. And we even see like a sort of specter of Black Hand that kind of forms from like the sort of the black energy that comes from it at one point. So and Hal gets shot. He gets shot by the waitress in the diner, and we see just like this like sends the energy into a tizzy where there's like it's all swishing around the diner, causing chaos. And Hal is like wait, you're not going to let me die, are you? Like, because this energy goes into his wound and like pulls out the bullet. And the cliffhanger is just Joe showing up with green energy around her, and she's got like a little Green Lantern symbol on her shirt. She's still wearing civvies, like she's still wearing jeans and like a jacket and whatnot, but she's clearly got Green Lantern energy around her, so clearly there's more story to tell about what happened when Abin Sur came down. I feel like we're going to be flashing back to like the rest of that part of the story throughout this arc.
It's very reminiscent of when Alan Scott uses his. It's like almost a screen flame surrounding, right? Which I thought was pretty curious.
Yeah, I can see that. The question I have here is: Abin Sur a villain? Did he like? I mean, he came with this big Green Lantern symbol, which suggests that he has at least something to do with the Green Lantern still, or is the Green Lantern ship chasing him because he's got the Black Hand stuff and he's actually a villain?
Yeah. Which would make sense, because if you're twisting this, right, where what is the Green Lantern without Will, right? And if Hal's the first person to encounter Abin Sur, and he almost gets this thing that completely takes control of him, right? It's not Will. But there's still a Green Lantern story in here to be told with that ship, and whoever bequeathed this on Joe, right? Because we don't think it's Abin Sur, do we? Because the way Hal talked about him.
I mean, Abin Sur looked pretty menacing from the one glimpse we got of him. So it's kind of, and he didn't have any green energy around him. No, it didn't look like. So I think it's open for debate. But again, like the other Absolute books, there's so much room for them to kind of go in any direction they want. What I did like though is the book started with when Hal's walking down the road. All of the the narration coming from like the Black Hand kind of like entity that's kind of attached itself to him. It's all stuff like, oh, you're scared, you will feel fear. Like it's all like the opposite of what you usually get with Green Lantern narration, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, as being someone that's born and raised here in Nevada, they're in Evergreen, Nevada, which seems to be up north a bit more. But when we got to the page with the cop car, I was like, huh, that looks like our highway patrol cars. So then when you keep reading and they're in Nevada, I was like, oh, okay, nice touch there from the artist point. You know, and even the surrounding desert looks very familiar to everything around here. So points there to the art to Jahnoy and Lindsay, who I'm not familiar with, but proper stuff there.
You to me as well. Just looking at that Abin Sur page again, I will say it does look like he's maybe inside the Green Lantern circle. Like you can sort of see a part of the curve. So even though you don't see energy around him, I guess you could argue that the entire background has got a green tint, implying that there's an entire green force field around the ship. So maybe he is the Green Lantern here. Maybe he is chasing the Black Hand, and he is the one who gives the energy to Joe if he isn't a villain.
Yeah.
But he does look menacing here, but I mean, that could just be the prejudice of they drew him kind of scary, so I'm just going to assume he's a bad guy.
True, because Hal tells the waitress, he said his name was Abin Sur, he came from somewhere else. The symbol in the sky, that belonged to him.
Yeah, okay,
and then
that was
when
a
he's crying here and he says he called it the Green Lantern. So, who knows? Abin Sur did something, he gave me something, he gave me a weapon. So yeah, he definitely got the Black Hand from Abin Sur.
So that's conflicting, because on the one hand, okay, the Green Lantern ship is his. I'm calling it a ship for lack of a better word right now. I'm just going to call it that. So he did come with the ship. He does call it the Green Lantern, but he also seemed to be the one who passed on this Black Hand thing. Is it possible that Abin Sur got infected with this Black Hand thing, and it's like, you know, it's using them to seek out a new host, and it's found its way to Earth? Is that what we're doing here? Yeah. Is it possible that like Black Hand went from Abin Sur to Hal left, and then Abin Sur was himself again as he's dying after Black Hand's left him, and he says, "Hey Joe."
Right.
Like, you have the ability to overcome great fear. Welcome to the Green Lantern Corps, or whatever the equivalent is in the Absolute universe.
Well, and here it also plays off that Hal wanting to be the hero has almost cursed him, because he keeps saying that I wanted to be the hero, right? And since it seems like he was the first there, he's the one that gets this Black Hand. And again, maybe it's just like that. Maybe it's something he needs to overcome. You know, and that's not him, because here, right, we get that he's a toy reseller, because they talk about like he's trying to collect.
Excuse me, collectible retailer, I think something like he called it. Yeah.
Yes, but John Stewart's like, yeah, no, you buy and sell toys, my guy. And essentially he's looking for like a Malibu Barbie dream house. That's where he's on his way.
It's
go pick
very
up.
different from being a test pilot for the Air
Very,
Force. Very different career path.
but right. And so the whole idea that him wanting to be the hero and whatever seems to be counterpoint to what we're used to with the reason that Hal, responds to Abin Sur and whatnot.
Yeah,
He's a test pilot who doesn't check for safety and stuff first. He just goes and does things.
Yeah, I think that's my guess right now, is that Abin Sur either is infected or doesn't mean to give the Black Hand out, and then recruits someone to take his Green Lantern power because he realizes he's dying after he realizes this planet's now in danger. And Joe, for whatever reason, is the one that's picked. Or maybe more than one is picked. Maybe both John's got powers too. Maybe it's divvied up and John's doing something else.
Yeah.
But
I'm wondering also too if this is how we're gonna get, like, we're just gonna jump right into the whole spectrum, right? And maybe that's where that whole thing, he called it the Green Lantern, as Hal is mistaken that maybe each of them get something different, and they're gonna have to learn how to work together to overcome whatever's coming. Because if the spaceship crashed, there was a reason why. It wasn't just they were in pursuit of something or, running from something else.
I mean, maybe Black Hand did something to bring the ship down. Maybe, like, this is kind of a crossing that happens. And as far as the spectrum goes, like, who knows what the spectrum's like here? Is there other cores at all? And if there is, like, how does it work? Or maybe, I don't know. Like, there's so much, like, mythology in Green Lantern that they could really, like, change if they want to here with this.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's also curious that Al Ewing, coming from, Thor and Hulk and that whole idea too, the way that the energy comes out of the Black Hand is very reminiscent of, like, a symbiote or like Gore, the God Butcher, and the Necro Sword and all that type of stuff too. So I think that's funny. And then the way that Hal is on the run, it was very Hulk, right? Him walking down the lonely desert.
Oh, very classic
and
Hulk.
The police comes up behind him. Yeah. So just, some of these instincts that are there that I wouldn't usually associate with Green Lantern. And I think Ewing made it work for the better.
Wait, why are you quiet?
I finished my sentence.
Yeah, but I was out of the frame. Vamp a little bit.
You can get the scissors in there, man. That'll be good.
No, I don't have to look for it if I don't need to. Just vamp for a second. Oh, making my life difficult.
I am. So, yes. But anyways, the art, I will say too, some of the faces come off a bit manga-ish, which isn't to my taste. So I wouldn't say that it's not bad, but it's just something that I noticed. And compared to some of the other art styles that we've gotten in the Absolute Universe, it's a bit more different, right? But I think that can work to its advantage because it's something like Dragota's art in Batman. I feel like it leans into Dragota's style. So I feel like this might lean into Lindsay's style once we really get going.
Yeah, I mean, all the Absolute books have had very different art styles, and I think that's fine. I think they all feel kind of distinct because of that. I do think I agree that some of the faces are a bit in the manga side, which I'm not super into. But I will say I think the layouts are pretty strong. I think the way it builds up through the scenes, the build up to the policeman at the start being dusted, I think is really well done. The pacing's really good. Same with the Black Hand energy sort of swirling around the diner and stuff later, and Abin Sur coming. Like, all of that stuff is really well paced. So this is one of those cases where, like, the faces aren't really to my taste, but the actual overall vibe and aesthetic and pacing and sequential storytelling is very good. So I can kind of get by on that. But admittedly, will I ever pick it for Art of the Week because of the faces? Probably not. But that's, it's a personal taste thing more than it is anything else.
But like you said, the pacing's there because that whole sequence in the diner, right? You can feel the tension. And that's the story working with the art.
Yeah, and
kind of perfection.
And he does that twice in this book, because he does it at the start with the cop and then again diner, and they're both very effective. So I think there's a lot of confidence in the art in terms of its telling its stories. So no complaints on that front. So no. So
looking at Jahnoy Lindsay, the only other thing they've worked on for DC was that Superboy book that came out in 2023, The Man of Tomorrow. Where Connor went off into space.
Okay.
So which seems like there's just a ton of aliens to work with there. So again, I feel like this is going to lean into that side of things. But yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just I just clicked the name to see what other
that's fine.
books that they've worked on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm impressed with the fact that I have been into every absolute book pretty much so far. And if I was to sort of at this point, because this is kind of the last one we know about for a while, I'm sure there's going to be more, but this is kind of the last of the issue ones for a bit. I think the weakest one overall is probably Flash. I still enjoyed it, but I think it's probably at the bottom of the list for me. I'm thinking ahead. It's kind of weird. It's a bit unfair to rank books that have had entire arcs versus just one issues. So it's hard to do a full ranking, but
you can compare all the first issues, right?
No, that's true. You could compare the first issues. Yeah.
And Flash is still, as much as I love the concept of Flash, right, and I have a soft spot, it is still the weakest. Martian Manhunter was a bit out there. This was a bit more straightforward, so I would probably put it right about there, maybe a little bit over Martian Manhunter in terms of first issues. But I still think it's behind the first three.
It's definitely tough because they're doing very different things, and I can see, depending on your taste, like one or two of them really speaking to you more than the others, regardless of what anyone else says. I mean, we've kind of lined up and really loving the Wonder Woman book and feeling quite strong about the others. I mean, Connor's not as into Absolute Superman. He's a bit more mixed on that. So, but
more on that one later, because I have some thoughts on Superman. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting that I don't think there's been a dud. Like I think the quality's not been the exact same across the board, but everything's been at least I think even Flash has good potential, and there was things I liked in the first issue. Although I think as a first issue, it didn't excite me as much as this did, or Martian Manhunter did, and certainly not the Trinity of books did. So, but the Absolute line is kind of cooking. So we'll see where we go with this, and it's kind of this interesting sense of discovery with all the books. It's almost kind of weird in the sense that it's like, okay, we've got this line of number ones launching within 4 months, 5 months of each other, depending, and they all feel quite fresh, and they're all very different takes on these classic characters, and some of them doing very wildly different things with them. And it feels quite good. And it got me thinking about the New 52 and how bad that felt. And I think there is just something to be said of those weren't different enough. And don't get me wrong, that would have still been a problem because we didn't want to lose the classic versions of the characters. Like, that's a problem in and of itself. But I think the reason why the Absolute Universe can work is because, we get to do really different versions of those characters. We get to go wild with how much we change and have unique voices with those characters.
Yeah. Like when the New 52 launched, Batman was still pretty much the same, and Green Lantern was still pretty much the same.
No, but
imagine.
But even the ones that were different, Matt, even the ones that it completely rebooted, like Superman, it just didn't it was kind of weird because it was treading water. It couldn't commit to being truly different. It had to kind of still ride the line of being recognizable and not doing anything that was going to piss people off. But obviously, it was pretty bad anyway, just because it,
yeah, the point that I was going to get to is, imagine the Absolute kicks off, but it's like it still has those kind of restrictions to it, right? Where they still have to, this still has to happen and this still has to happen because of editorial, as opposed to these have free reign, right? The Absolute Universe, it seems like the creatives can kind of are doing what they want as of right now, which helps the line as a. Yeah,
I assume that there is some editorial oversight in the sense that they all have to fit together eventually, so there's probably some limits, there's probably some things like, I'm sure Al Ewing, when he's writing Green Lantern, can't just out of nowhere say, Thanagar get destroyed 50 years ago, because, in 6 months' time there might be an Absolute Hawkman that needs to do something with Thanagar, so there's probably still limits in places, but it seems like they have pretty open reign to do what they want with these characters here.
Right. So, and I feel like that's where it makes it feel stronger. And they're also rolling them out at a proper pace instead of just dropping, 13 books on us, and they all kind of meld together. So,
we've had, because we've had maybe a full arc of the first 3 books by the time that all these, this second wave, if you will, Flash, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter being the second wave of the books. So yeah. Which is actually kind of nice in a weird way that they're focusing on Joe potentially, even though Hal gets more page time in this first issue. I think focusing on Joe as the main lantern of this book, at least to begin with, is kind of nice because it means that each like wave of books has had like a female focused story, which is nice.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, what were you giving Absolute Green Lantern, Matt?
I'm gonna just a straight 8.
Yeah, I was thinking around there as well. I think it's got a lot of potential, and I think the sequential art's very good, and I kind of dig the kind of the almost horror movie vibe that I was getting from the Black Hand stuff, where it's this, like you say, a symbiote, something that's attached itself to him, and I'm excited to discover all the new rules and all the things we're going to do with all that stuff. So cool. All right. Absolute Superman issue 6, Jason Aaron writing with Carmine D. Giandomenico on the art, which somehow that never clicked for me. I guess I just wasn't thinking about the art. I was just sort of reading the book, didn't even think about who the artist usually is. And then afterwards, when I was making up the list, went, oh, it was Giandomenico? And then I went back and looked at the art and went, oh, I can see it now that I'm thinking about it.
Yep. So when I was reading it, I was like, well, this is clearly not Sandoval. But it's a bit close enough. I had no clue that it was Giandomenico until I got to the end. And then, like you just said, when you go back and look, you're like, oh yeah, I know that is Giandomenico. But it doesn't have kind of the hallmark, maybe the super speed sequence, right? But it didn't have a lot of the stuff that I associate with Giandomenico's art. You know, a lot of kind of the over-the-top action-y pieces. It's almost kind of more of a quiet version.
It's reined in a little bit because I can usually tell B's faces really easily. Here I can see it when I'm looking for it, but it's very, I don't know if just maybe the inks and the colorist have really done a lot of work to try and make it feel as close to like the previous art as possible. But anyway, this book starts with Clark or Cal in the ship and emphasizes this time of like he's kind of awake and aware of the journey, right? So he's got Saul talking to him and scanning planets as they fly by. They don't have like a specific destination in mind. They're just looking for an inhabitable world, right? That's all it is.
Yep.
And Cal's losing hope, and he's like, just throw me out of the ship. Let me die. I don't want to do this anymore. I've lost hope. And just at that moment, he starts to feel really weird because he's starting to feel really hot, and it's because they're next to a yellow sun. So of course, very quickly, Saul's like, hey, I found a planet. There's one right here that might be good for you.
I love the scanning success, life sustaining world detected. And then it's the, ship heading into the Earth's atmosphere. Yep.
And obviously it breaks up as he's entering. So basically, like when we cut to Jonathan and Martha and they're in the field and they're talking about how times are rough. I mean, basically what we get through this issue is we discover that Lazarus have got drones that are controlling the weather above their farm so it never rains to try and basically force them out because they want the land. It's a super evil ship.
Very, very, it's very similar to what was going on in Krypton, right?
Oh yeah.
With you didn't pay for the rain, and again, I was getting just definitely echoes of his parents in Pa and we don't know if they're Ma and Pa quite yet, but Jonathan and Martha here, Also, Giandomenico's Jonathan Kent kind of looks like Paul Newman here, and that cracked me up a little bit.
I mean, I don't know if that's intentional, but I mean, maybe it is.
No.
But yeah, so Superman lands and he's on fire, he's freaking out, and they kind of acknowledge that he's speaking a different language to them, so they can't understand him, but he collapses. And Martha's the sympathetic one who's like, hey, he needs help, he didn't mean to do anything, he's clearly scared. And we get like a montage of him lying in a bed, and he's like, powers keep kicking in and scaring the crap out of them, where he'll float above the bed, or his super strength will kick in and break the bed apart, or his heat vision turns on and starts ripping around the room. And it's only after he wakes up, like sometime later, where he kind of darts out of the room. He kind of sees how pretty like the sunrise is, and he looks around at the field, and he sees he sees pretty land, he's seen farmland, and he's like, okay, this feels like home, bizarrely, right? Because that's something that Jonathan says later, is that, you know, even when he couldn't understand him, he could sort of tell that Clark was a farm boy. Like, there was something there about that already. So even though they can't communicate, he spends weeks with them, just like helping, like picking up the tractor, helping around the house. And both Martha and Jonathan kind of like form a bit of a bond and kind of tell them how they think he's affected their partner. Like, you know, Jonathan talks about how, oh, Martha was always upset about not having kids, and you've kind of given her this thing that she was missing, and she's telling, you know, and again, Clark can't understand any of this, right? Like, Superman can't understand the lick of what they're saying. So there's kind of this sweet, like, we can't really communicate anything, but we're still working in sync and forming a bond anyway, which kind of makes it sweet in a different way than normal.
Because they have more in common than they don't, right? Like, there's this, you know, he can tell that he's a farmer's kid, and that, you know, Cal is very familiar with the type of stuff that they do on the farm. And that whole part with, you know, she always wanted to be a mother, and you being around is letting her do that, you know. And then when she says, you know, him being around has given Jonathan something else to worry about, you know, to help him remember who he is. And it's not just worrying about that the farm's not going to survive.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like he showed up almost like an angel falling from the skies, because even when he lands and that the cape's up behind him, it kind of resembles Ewing. Right, and we get this real fun moment where Jonathan's like, I asked for it to rain, not no boy, you know, on fire from the sky. So it's this thing that they look like a negative, but has turned into a positive.
Yeah, and eventually Saul comes back online. Basically, Saul had to shut down for like all these weeks, and eventually comes back online after recharging, and Cal's like, okay, can you please download the language that these people speak so that I can learn it? Thank you. So yeah, they're quite shocked when he just walks up and says, hello, my name is Kal-El. And they're like, oh, well, this is Jonathan. I feel like they would still say they're Jonathan and Martha, even when they couldn't like understand each other. I think at the very least you would point to yourself and go, Peter, who are you? But anyway,
Matt.
Yes. Good job, Matt. You got it right. So, yeah, very quickly, like, Saul recognizes that there's drones in the sky, like, affecting the weather, and, like, brings them all down. And immediately it starts raining. And it's not enough to save the season on the farm, but it's like, hey, this is, like, a sign of, like, hope to come. Like, he's already fixed something.
Yeah.
But there's, like, there's a spy from Lazarus watching in a truck saying, hey, we need immigration over here. There's like someone suspicious here that can do things. So the Peacemakers show up and basically try and take Cal from them, and they're yelling, leave him alone, and Superman gets angry, and obviously he ends up being stronger than they're expecting, and basically Jonathan like looks at Clark and says, hey son, please go, you know, like get away, don't worry about us. And he flies off kind of in anger, frustrated, and Lazarus are freaking out saying, oh wait, this kid just took to the skies, he's flying. So that's actually the end of the flashback stuff for the issue. And when we start on the present day stuff, Lois is went to the old folks home where Martha's apparently staying, just sort of teasing that she's maybe going to go speak to her next issue. But we get a sequence at the end here where Brainiac's talking and discussing plans with whoever's working for Brainiac, or at least is in cahoots with Brainiac. And they even say Lazarus Pit, you know, deactivating, and I'm like, okay, it makes sense. Lazarus Corporation, Lazarus Pits, that's not a much of a stretch. But I was like, who's using it, right? Because as much as it's an obvious person that could be using it, I was thinking, well, it's probably someone else because this is a Superman comic. Nope. It's Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul is running the Lazarus Corporation, which you know we could have predicted, obviously, but it's this is it now. So the Absolute Universe is turning Ra's al Ghul into a Superman villain.
Which, if you look at what this version of Superman is, right? He is that hero of the oppressed, right? We've seen him saving the miners. We've seen that what the S symbol stands for, right? It's the working class. And when you look at Ra's al Ghul and what he represents, is he's, you know, yes, ultimately he wants to save the world, but he wants to do it for himself. Right? So he's kind of like this upper, the super upper class that wants to save it, but only so they can exploit it. So you put those two at odds with each other, and it makes for some great storytelling because they're on the different ends of the spectrum. But early on, when Jonathan and Martha are talking, we get little hints of it here. And as I'm reading, Jonathan's like, Lazarus, I've been listening to the, or reading on the internet, and there's people on the line that said like they have these pits that can heal anything. And I'm like, we're not doing Ra's al Ghul. And then we get to the end, and he gets out of the Lazarus pit, and full bearded glory wearing a loincloth. And I'm just like, oh, we are doing Ra's al Ghul. Awesome. Yeah, let's see where this goes.
It opens a lot of interesting questions because one, like, where, how, and when does Lex ever become like a thing in this, if at all? And is Lex even a Superman villain in this universe? Lex could be a Batman villain in this universe for all we goddamn know. Given this,
he could be an ally, right? Because if we take the idea that Lex could have saved the world, but they got jealous of Superman. If Superman doesn't appear as we think he does, right? Maybe Lex has more time to reflect or whatever, or maybe he's a Lazarus scientist that defects because he doesn't like the way that it's going, kind of like Lois.
Maybe he takes control of the company after Superman takes out Raz. I mean, that's maybe the most obvious boring thing for them to do, but it's possible. Right. But it also opens up the door of like, okay, well, who else could like swap villain or swap heroes? Like, what if I don't know, Sinestro is now a Teen Titans villain. I don't know.
Or I mean, you got Sinestro and Martian Manhunter, right? They're both these alien figures that But yeah, it definitely opens the door and it switches stuff up in the world. But I do like the pairing of Superman, especially this version of Superman, and Ra's al Ghul, because this clearly doesn't feel like the same Ra's al Ghul that we're used to. Because everything, like when I think of a Lazarus pit, it's in a cave, it's deep and dank. It's all ritualistic. Here, it seems like it's much more tech-based.
Yes.
He gets out of the Lazarus pit. And
he does have robots that are wearing robes like they're in a cult. So there is at least a little bit of that ritualistic side of it still remaining.
But it's more like that techno. Like, I just listened to this series about a techno AI cult that, really went off the rails. And this is kind of what they used to wear black robes and call themselves actual Siths, right? Like some weird stuff out there. This is what it reminded me. Like I finished that podcast, I read this book, and I was like, oh, it's right here, But yeah, no, these robots that almost kind of also resemble the Superman robots that I'm used to seeing. The kind of faceless, almost like Helix. But they're wearing robes here, and yeah, it definitely switches up Ra's as far as we know. So, but yeah, I'm super, super hyped. This took the Absolute Superman, which I was already enjoying, and it really tugged on my heartstrings with Ma and Pa Kent and their conversation at the beginning. And then when they are both talking to Clark, even though he can't understand, and it's like, you being here kind of saved the other. And yeah, it really pulled on me here. So it took me from really enjoying Absolute Superman to absolutely loving after this first arc.
Yeah, I mean, this is technically the end of the first arc in some ways. I mean, again, much like Absolute Batman, does not feel like really the end of any kind of story, but just like, hey, big cliffhanger to end this arc on before we go into the rest of it. So, meaning when they sell the trade, assuming tariffs don't make that impossible, there'll be a nice cliffhanger at the end of it for people to chew on. So, all right, what are you giving Absolute Superman?
I'm gonna give this one a 9.
Damn. I don't know if I'll go quite that. I did like it, and I do think the Ra's al Ghul reveal at the end is interesting. But I think I'm happy to go for an 8 out of 10 on this, for sure. So that's Absolute Superman. Batgirl, issue 6, Tate Brombal and Takeshi Miyazawa on the art. So Cass and Shiva are tied upside down, as they were at the end of the last issue. And Cass is doing a lot of reflection about what it means to be a mother, what it means to be a daughter. Like, are we just bound together because of that? I mean, I chose a father. He chose me as a daughter. Like, what am I still doing here? And this issue kind of like pushes them to the brink where we find out that Shiva kind of started all this and went looking for a challenge underground. The Unburied were kind of happy just living on their own underground and not being bothered by the world because they'd been betrayed too much by people like Ra's al Ghul. So they're like, you know what, we're just going to stay in here, we're going to be happy. And Shiva went looking for a challenge and caused all this chaos. And Cass like just kind of doubles down at that point and is like, yeah, I'm done with you. Like, you, like, I never want to see you again. Leave me alone. Like, you did this, and you speak of all these things and honor and, like, the fact that I need you and whatnot. Also, Shiva's, like, friend, Jayesh, shows up to save the day and gets killed by one of the sort of the main henchmen, like, immediately. The one with the big clippers.
Scissors.
Yeah. Stabs him. So that's kind of your big tragic moment. So the only sort of redeeming thing that Shiva really has is that when they kind of are able to get away, and there's a fun little bit here where they're going down a river and Cass like gets out at the last second, and the two Unburied like ninjas that were chasing them just like aren't able to get to the shore, so they just go like down river screaming. It was a really funny little moment, but yeah, like. But there is a little moment where, like, you know, I mean, this is where the conversation happens where Cass kind of rejects her and says, no, like, these wounds will never heal. Like, we're going to get out of here and then I never want to see you again. And she has a whole moment where she puts on the mask. And it's a really good page, actually, because you can sort of see the mask dangling in her hand and then she sort of pulls it over. And it's like, yeah, we're going to do something my father taught me. And then, sure enough, the next couple of pages is the Unburied ninjas being swarmed by bats. So she's using Batman techniques, which is really fun. And we get.
I also love that, right?
Yeah, there you go.
All right, I was gonna say real quick. As they're standing in the cave, and Cass like, "I'll help you escape. Then I'm done." And she was like, "As you wish." As soon as Cass puts that mask on, right, she is Batman's daughter. And I just love thematically how that works, right? Because she puts the mask on and then says, you know, something my father taught me. And you just see the little red eyes of the bats around there. And I thought that was a really, really well done moment.
Yeah, that page really stands out in this issue. And, you know, as the bats swarm them, they jump in and start fighting. So we get like a 2-page layout of just the fighting happening. And the fighting in this book's all been very good. And Cass, like, you know, grapples them out of there with their grapple gun. Again, very Batman-esque. But when they're getting chased out and Cass is on the motorbike, Shiva says, "Oh, this is where my path, you know, leads. You know, Shiva does not yield. You go on." And Cass actually kind of like finally breaks and says, "I choose you. You know, come with me, Mom," and kind of like calls her that. But you know, so Shiva, in her own weird way, makes this sacrifice to sort of hold off the Unburied to let Cass get away. So it's like actually something like of a sacrifice that maybe Cass didn't expect. So
but is Shiva kind of playing her, because at this point I don't know what to believe when it comes to Shiva, right? Because this all started because she went in, right, she went in looking for a problem where there was none because she was bored, right? And now there's been the death of these people, right? The death of Jayesh, the death of, we're assuming, of the Vietnamese family that Cass had went to. That, you know,
I mean, not just assuming, that was I mean, that was definite at the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Because at one point in this issue, at one point in this issue, Cass even like says this is for her and like kicks the guy in the face.
Right. And then we just have a complex thing with the Unburied too, where they just wanted to be left alone. But when you keep pursuing this vengeance, doesn't that turn you into what you were, you know, fighting against originally? And all of that type of stuff. So I definitely like all of that, but it just makes me wonder what Shiva has up her sleeve. Because again, we still haven't really got to the bottom of the Order of Shiva and what that actually represents.
Yeah, but so Shiva's like fighting the Unburied and gets slashed with a sword. Cass yells out no as she's riding away in the bike, and the bad guy holds up like her Cobra like banner or whatever it is. So Cass kind of like basically in her monologue or her narration at the end kind of like says, "No, we are tied together, you know, in life and death." So it seems like, you know, Cass isn't done, with Shiva at this point. In fact, it says next time we're getting the definitive history of Lady Shiva. So it sounds like we're going to maybe get to some of the truth of Shiva, maybe get a chance to see some of the moments where she did make some sort of genuine choices that weren't manipulation. Whether or not Cass is going to get to like know about those is another question, but I think the audience is going to at least get to see some of those things. So
yeah, and did you mention that Shiva also told Cass to go find Bronze Tiger?
I did not mention that. No, that was she said go find Bronze Tiger. So
yes, so I'm sure Cass will come back with some backup, right? Because Bronze Tiger is another one that has a very complex history.
Well, I wonder if Bronze Tiger is going to be the one that tells Cass whatever the Shiva story is.
History.
Yeah. Maybe like Cass will mention what's going on, and he'll bring up like something relevant, and that's how we'll get our flashback issue.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I'm just guessing, but no, it's a good issue. And really love those moments in the middle where Cass like puts on the mask and uses the bats, very Batman-esque. Like all of that stuff was entertaining. I think, I mean, if honestly the only thing holding against the issue really is just that the first like 2 or 3 issues of this arc were so amazing that like the last couple issues were just really good and weren't as like perfect as those first couple issues, but that's really just a comparison thing more than anything.
Yeah, and I will say we read so many books for the show, right? But Batgirl's one of the ones that I absolutely have no problem remembering what happened in the last issue. I don't need much of a refresher when it comes to things. So here it opens with them being upside down. It's like, oh yeah, that was a fun moment that we ended on last time. So that's some really decent writing to be able to instantly pull. Because writing for these big moments. Yeah.
So no, I mean we'll see where we go with like the next part of this, the next arc and whatnot. I think the art's still really good. I think the fighting's handled really well. But I think that's probably the thing that sticks out here as to why I think that some of the earlier issues are even more special, is I think some of the fights in the earlier issues are even better. Like, the fight in the train in like issue 4, whatever that was really good. All that stuff in issue 1 was fantastic. So it's really only just like a victim of a comparison to itself. I think maybe the only slight nitpick I would say is that I think I was hoping that the Shiva story would just be like definitively done at the end of this issue. So, and I'm like, oh no, we're not done with this shit because we're doing like a flashback, history of Shiva next time. So
it's actually kind of feeling like Cass's last crusade, right? Because she's doing stuff for Mom, and she has a lot of complex emotions about Mom, and there's just the give and the take, and they get reunited to be pulled apart again. And as you're talking about the issues and being resolved, I was like, oh no, that's what this, I feel like the main story is using these different big moments to tell the mother-daughter story. And I really appreciate that it's seeming to take its time.
Yeah. All right, what are you giving Batgirl?
It's a straight 8.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm about there as well. I mean, I've given several just straight 8s at this point, but I think that's how I feel. I think it's not quite as special as some of the earlier issues in the arc, but very, very good still. Art's great. Yeah, 8 out of 10 for me as well. So, cool. Birds of Prey, issue 20, Legacy number 218, Kelly Thompson writing with Sami Basri on the art. So, start of a new arc here, because we've just had like a 2-parter on this book for the last couple issues. And it kind of kicks off with not a lot of context for what's going on, but Batgirl, meaning Cass, is kind of surveying somewhere, a crime scene. There's cop cars down below. It's a silent few pages of her just sort of, looking down. The art's really nice here. And getting into the crime scene, and there's a fun little reveal here as she's talking to Oracle and explaining some of the things she's seeing, that the crime scene looks staged. There's another speech bubble, and then the next page reveals that Batman's also there. He's shown up. And there's kind of a nice little thing here where Batman just kind of says, hey, is this related to the robbery at the military black site, the experimental drug that was stolen? And Cass says yes. And Batman says, are you seeing stuff that you need to see here? And she says yes. And he's like, okay, fine. This is the Birds of Prey's crime scene. Just keep me in the loop, and leaves. And it was just a nice little thing of like, okay, you know what? It just shows how much he trusts Babs and the team to like take care of their own cases. He's like, I want to, tell me what's going on with it and keep me in the loop. But like, yeah, okay, this is yours. Like, I don't need to get involved with this.
Yeah.
I've got the joke. I've got the joke to go beat
Yeah.
up for the 50 millionth time.
Yeah. He's got 15 other things going on right now. He goes, oh,
Yes.
this is one less I have to deal with. Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, but it was just a nice way of showing like kind of giving the birds of prey a level of sort of respect, I guess, in the hierarchy, which is nice. So. And one of the things I love about this book is that fun banter, and it's like, Babs is staring at her computer screen, monologuing to herself about how like all these clues are like really confusing and like hard to deal with, and then like it just cuts to a panel of the team, like the entire team and their civvies just looking at her going, we're just standing here watching you, right? Like what are we doing
in the middle of the night? Like, give us something to do.
Dear. So yeah, basically it's like, hey, all these clues lead to different things, different locations, and it's probably some kind of trap. But we have to find out where this drug went and who's behind it. So we're going to have to go and split up, and everyone gets sent on their own little missions. So basically there's 3 teams that are well, I say teams. It's basically 2 individuals and 1 pair get sent off in different missions.
Because Canary's on hers, Porta's on hers, and then they send Cass and Sin, right?
Yes.
To handle that one.
So yeah, they send Barda to somewhere, not Dubai.
No, the United Arab Emirates, the UAE.
But not Dubai.
She wants to bring her bikini. And like, that's not going to be allowed there. Which makes for a running joke throughout.
Yeah, Bab says that she can. And there's a running thing here as they're getting their orders where Dinah keeps saying positive things about making stuff fun, and Babs keeps sort of like just axing it down immediately, saying, no, you can't make this fun for this reason. You can't do that for this reason. So they're all kind of bantering about how they're getting mixed signals from the 2 of them. But yeah, so she's sent there. Black Canary's sent to Tokyo because there's like a technology show where some of this stolen tech might get shown, so she's going there for that. And then Cass and Sin are sticking around in Gotham to check out something. So yeah, so we get Dinah in Tokyo, right? And she's all dressed up for this fancy gala kind of thing. She has to use her powers to break into the door. Barda's one's quite interesting because she goes to this weird town, and it's like mostly fake. She realizes it's kind of just a ruse, except one building which is real. There's like the one tall skyscraper that's real, and everything else is fake. And she knocks some stuff down and kind of comments on it a little bit. It turns out it is a trap though, because she boom tubes to the penthouse and ends up trapped in like the elevator, or the room becomes like a box. And she's like, what, you think you can keep me locked up in here? And then the box launches into space. So whoever planned this basically prepared this for Barda specifically to launch her into space. Specifically without the ability to boom tube back, because her mother box thing's stolen.
Her stick.
Yeah.
Yeah. She has her club that she uses. And also, this character that came out looks like Ink from Batman Beyond. There was that shape-shifting character that was kind of... It wasn't really Terry's Catwoman, but she had a lot of the same stuff. She was a thief. She would infiltrate corporate stuff. Yeah,
I would have never... my mind would have never went there. So I
love Batman Beyond more than the average person.
Yeah. I didn't know who this was. I just assumed it was either someone new or some deep pull that I didn't get. But yeah, this character comes out like kind of like a... Like you say, not a mist per se, but like a really sort of focused like gas of some kind, and kind of forms. And...
It's almost like a living shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely very much Ink from Batman Beyond.
Okay.
I just pulled it up, and same hairstyle, same coloring, and everything. So that makes me curious of what's at play here, right? But so she gets the Barda's thing, and then it sends it off into space, and now Barda's in space trying to call it Oracle, which I thought was another fun moment.
Yeah, it sends Barda. Doesn't send Barda's thing into space. She's still got that. No. Sends the room that Barda's in. It's actually secretly a rocket. So she's in space and she's trying to communicate with Oracle, and it's not going very well. Honestly, I don't think this Ink character, though, is the person behind all this. If I was to make a guess right now, I think there's like an evil Birds of Prey I think this is like one of like a team that are attacking the birds of prey would be my guess.
Yeah, because when we get to the end, and we'll talk about the other stuff, but the last thing is it says, you know, 1 down, 4 to go. And there's a panel of them at that fashion show when they introduced Vixen at the start of that arc, which was
Yes.
Is that the second big arc?
That was the second arc, yeah.
Yeah. So definitely has ties back to that, which I definitely, you know, remember that arc also started because someone, what was the one character's name? The time traveler girl, and they went through the portals. Babs is responsible for the death of their mom, right? And that's why they were trying to kill Babs. So I'm wondering if this ties that back together, and this is part of that plot. Because as far as I know, if this is ink from Batman Beyond, that's someone from the multiverse, right? Unless Kelly Thompson's just going to make, you know, ink part of the modern DC continuity.
Yeah, this could just be like ink in the regular continuity. I mean,
right.
There's no reason why it couldn't be that.
But it tells me there's something screwier going on. I would definitely guess. So, but yeah, but you know, we also get Canary.
Hold on, Matt. Didn't we deal with the whole someone trying to kill Babs from the future thing? Wasn't that wrapped up by the end of that arc?
Yes, but you would have to assume that storyline is still in play, that the mom is still going to do something, right? Because we dealt with the daughters getting revenge on Babs, right? But what if there's still the thing that's in play that Babs is responsible for? And maybe this is part of that with whoever that villain was. You know what I mean?
Not really.
Because there's still that villain.
What villain?
So I forget her name, but she was the one. She ends up being the mom that has the kids that goes to the portal. Right? She's, in theory, she's still in play.
Well, yeah, but
so like, what if this is the start of what adds to Babs being responsible for the death?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Because there was no.
But the reason why I'm confused though is why would she be traveling back through time trying to get revenge for her own death? She's dead.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is this: the ink thing is that's one thing and the other. I'm just saying, what if this is that plot coming back around? You know what I mean?
I'm not convinced it is. I can see what you're saying. You're saying this is going to build up to whatever whatever started that in the first place.
Yes.
I don't necessarily think we're doing that. I think we're building like a new villain team here of some kind, and I would guess that all of this team are women, and the idea is that they're an evil version of the Birds of Prey. That would be my guess right now. But and the first one we've got to see is this ink character. And also Barda, she realizes that on the little space shuttle she's in, there's a bomb. So the cliffhanger is that exploding and like Oracle screaming down the comms, Barda's down. So now obviously I think Barda's okay, but we'll see how that goes.
She's still a new god, you know. Yeah. She's gonna be very angry though when she lands on Earth from space. I'll tell you that much.
But also notably, that little panel at the end where someone ominous who's behind all this is saying 1 down, 4 to go. That lettering and speech bubble is definitely very specific. Like it looks. I don't want to say it's robotic, but it does certainly look like it's coming from a computer or someone maybe through a voice like tech of some kind.
There was an anti-Oracle in the Batgirl's book, right?
I mean, there was. Matt, I think you're a little obsessed sometimes with trying to tie things back to other things that I don't think are ever going to be important again.
Because that was the last time I remember seeing this type of font. Remember when they were going after the Batgirls and Babs was trying to figure out who was doing stuff? The font was very similar to this.
I'll take your word for it. I don't remember it. I'll be surprised if that's
I was trying to remember if that was something that I read or if that was something that I imagined. So...
Like, once in a while, you're definitely right about things, but I do think you jump to, like, weird connections sometimes. I'm just pointing it out because I think it might be a hint of what type of character it is, or at the very least, it suggests that it is, like you say, some sort of anti-Oracle, but I don't necessarily know if it's going to be that one from Batgirls. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe Kelly Thompson's decided that she can do some stuff with that, but... yeah, but it would definitely suggest that her rival, like that there is someone who is also with computers in the same way that Babs works with computers, would be my guess. As for the other characters, we have Cass and Sin chasing someone fishy down into the sewer system. They don't really get much further in that. There was a nice moment between them though, which I liked, where Sin's kind of talking about, oh, she's new to this, and like you get saddled with me and whatnot. And Cass says, no, you're pretty great. Like, like, and we're kind of similar. Like, we're both made to be weapons, and we can choose to be better than that because we're more than that. And Sin hugs her from behind, and Cass, like, the art's really good here because the art really shows that Cass is surprised by the hug and doesn't know how to take it. What I liked about this, though, other than that being very sweet, is the idea that Cass is so often the little sister character to a lot of the others in like the Bat family. Even Steph, who technically came later, I don't know if she's technically meant to be younger or not, but that still feels like Steph's the big sister because Steph is more confident and she's more used to the regular world and like treats Cass like a little sister. There was something really nice here.
World experience.
There's something really nice here about the idea that Cass actually has this unique experience where she gets to be the experienced one of the pair and gets to sort of give advice and let her know something's okay, or give her this, like, sense of camaraderie or confidence from being able to say, hey, it's okay, I went through some of this stuff too, you'll be okay. I don't know, it was really interesting seeing Cass be on that side of that conversation for once, when Cass is usually the one who is the younger sister or the more innocent one or the more naive one that's being kind of helped or aided. So no, I really like that little moment. That stuck out to me more than the actual plot thing, really. And then Dinah is just seeing this tech being shown off, and they're showing what seems to be a very, very convincing camouflage technology where the guy just looks invisible after the fact. So I bet that comes into play at some point. Matt shouting at his wife or something, or dogs potentially. Yes, I bet
definitely dogs.
Yeah, I bet this.
I had to find the mute on the new thing. It's not in the same spot. So
the new thing. Yeah. Matt's learning how to use Discord. Everyone, Matt's not used to Discord. The new thing.
It's definitely not Skype. So I mean, it's better than Skype so far, but it wasn't in the same spot when I went to hit, and I didn't want to hit anything wrong. So
that's fair. But yeah, I'm sure someone's going to appear out of nowhere later on. Like one of the villains is no doubt using this tech, and that's going to be a big moment in a later issue. I would hasten to guess. I like this quite a lot, actually, this issue. I think what I liked about it is that so much of early Birds of Prey is very much just Babs and Dinah. Babs is at the computer, Dinah's the secret agent doing the action stuff. I kind of like that the team all split up into their own versions of that. And we got just a little bit of that sort of sprinkled through all the characters. I think that felt like a really cool throwback to what Birds of Prey started off as. And I'm intrigued by whoever this group of villains is. Or at the very least, who the one main villain is that's doing all this. But I kind of suspect there might be a team vibe to it, because I'm expecting like an anti-Birds of Prey.
It's definitely like that, because this feels all very deliberate to split them up, right?
Yes.
Because they talk about the clues being like, it almost feels like a trap.
Yeah, and plus, like, they specifically knew that Barda would go to the one that was designed to take care of Barda, right? So there's definitely some skill there. And you know what, if it is that character from Batgirls that does end up showing up as the anti-Oracle, I will say that like, I'm not that excited inherently about that character, but I'm excited for Kelly Thompson like making her a bigger deal by actually having her own Birds of Prey to fight against the main team. But I don't know who that could be. It could be anyone, really. I wonder who they'll pull on for that. But now this is cool, because I think like the personal relationships are good here, and they always are. And there's some great moments with Sin and Batgirl, or the banter when they're getting the mission and all that. And even that scene with Batman at the start, I really like. But what I dig about this is that I really kind of also like the plot a lot of this issue, and I'm excited about what we're building to with whoever these villains are. Which is maybe an extra flavor that I don't necessarily focus on as much with Birds of Prey, because it's how good the characters are together, and like the way they deal with the problems together that I enjoy. It's the back and forth, the team dynamic that I like. So, but so far this seems very promising, also in a plot perspective, which is cool.
Yeah, and it fits in with that Kelly Thompson vibe of all of that, right? Like this is up there with like West Coast Avengers and Hawkeye, and where it's these characters that you know, like, we care about these characters for the most part, but seeing them interact in the way that they do, it makes them much more charming. You know, unlike Barda, this book has made me absolutely love Barda. So seeing all that and the whole, you know, I just should have brought my bikini anyways. Who cares? There's nobody here. You know, Barda does what Barda wants, and then that ends up getting her shot into space. And just the way that all played out, it was very comical. And I love Kelly Thompson for that.
Yeah, and I think having Sin paired with another character is a really good thing for Sin, because I think having Sin bounce off the others, and you know, it's one thing giving her time one-on-one with Dinah because it's Dinah's sister, but I think like having her team up with Cass for a bit does a lot for me to like really get attached to Sin, because Sin's kind of like the, you know, the relative new character that I don't really have any attachment to versus everyone else. So, you know, Barda, at least we had that great Tom King Mr. Miracle book that really made me fall for Barda. So she's really kind of rising up there. And then Cass and Dinah and Babs I've just liked for, you know, forever. So Sin's the one that kind of you have to get me attached to from scratch pretty much, even though she's not a completely new creation, obviously. And I think doing scenes like that with Cass is a big way to go, I think. So
the thing that I didn't realize too is how similar Cass's past and Sin's past are. Right? How they're just kind of, they feel like they were not meant to be weapons, but they weren't treated properly, you know? And then so just pairing them together, and it almost shows Sin like there is a way out and you're in full control of it, because that's what, you know, Cass has gone through. And then, you know, Cass has the people that the reason she was able to get out is because of the support structure, and this reinforces that.
Yeah, so. I guess going back to what I was saying earlier, like Cass basically found role models in Batman and other Bat family members, and I don't think Cass has quite comprehended the idea that she can be a role model for Sin, but that's effectively what she's becoming, and that's sweet. So, all right, what are you giving Birds of Prey?
I'm gonna give this a. Did we really talk about the art with Basri? Which is pretty solid.
I thought about it a little bit. It's good. Yeah, the art's good.
I would say I'll give this an 8.5.
You know, I think I'm at the 8.5. I think this is probably the highest I'm going so far this week. So there you go. That's Birds of Prey. JSA issue 6, Jeff Lemire and Diego Olortegui on the art. Oh, I hope the second arc's better, Matt.
Brother, I was so ready. Again, this arc's called Ragnarok, and Ragnarok's a cycle, so hopefully we're seeing the end of a cycle and the start of a new one. There's still so many characters. Earlier in the show, I talked about how when a book that I'm really enjoying is well written enough that I can pick up and remember what happened. JSA is the opposite of that, where there's so much that has happened, I forgot where we were in the story. Yeah. Like I came in and I was very discombobulated.
Not to mention the fact that when Obsidian shows up, I was like, okay, this is still not really Obsidian, right? Because the real Obsidian's with Thunderbolt, yes, and they're in what might be a simulated world or something somewhere, right? Yeah. But I doubted myself though. I'm like, no, did they break out of that? Like I really was struggling to remember.
I forgot about that till you just mentioned it. And there's pieces that in the story that make sense why Jade and Obsidian seem to be at opposing ends of what to do next.
Because it's not Obsidian.
That makes much more sense.
It's Sorrow or whoever. Yeah,
Johnny Sorrow.
Yeah. So yeah, honestly, I don't know what to say about half this. They try and do a thing at the start where there's a quick one-page flashback of Wildcat trying to teach Khalid how to fight, and Khalid's like, why do I need to know how to fight? I've got a magic helmet. And Wildcat's like, yeah, but one day you might have to like stick up for yourself without the helmet. Like this is important. And he just kind of lets him away with not doing it. But then like in the present day, it's Wildcat who gives Khalid a pep talk and says, you can do this, kid, you're special, you've got this in you, blah 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 blah. Right? And I was just like, you know what? Like it would have been nice to like build some of this relationship up earlier in the arc so that when Wildcat and he dies later in the issue, that would have maybe like hit a bit harder with Khalid breaking down over it if like there was any sign of that relationship before this issue where I'm like I'm sure they exchanged some words, but like I can't remember like any meaningful exchanges between them before this issue.
Me neither.
It's just messy. It's just messy and poor. There's so much action.
The best way to describe it.
Yeah, because you got all the younger characters who are fighting various Cobra members, and Wildcat, because they find some of like Dr. Midnight's stuff in like a cell, and there's blood everywhere. She gets angry and seemingly just like slits a guy's throat, like a Cobra guy's throat just gets like, completely obliterated, and they're like, "Wait, Yolanda, what have you done?" So they're like, "Hey, we're going to have to deal with this. You just killed a guy like in cold blood." But then we just kind of.
When you said that, sounds like an Anchorman where like a brick killed a guy. Wildcat killed a guy.
Like, I think that movie's overrated, so I do not wish to be compared to it. Thank you very much.
I'm just telling you, your delivery was very, very Will Ferrell-esque.
Joe was depressing this week. I had to watch Mission Impossible 2 for a collector's cut because we're doing all of those.
John Woo.
And that movie is terrible, and I remembered it being terrible. What I did not remember is that the awful, awful villain was Scottish. I did not remember that. That was a surprise.
That's right. It was the guy he was supposed to be Wolverine in X-Men, and then messed up his back. Yeah, it's Doug Ray Scott. He was supposed to be Wolverine in the X-Men movie that came out in 2000, but he injured his back so badly doing the stunts in Mission Impossible, he had to withdraw from the film, and they found some guy named Hugh Jackman, and the rest is history.
I'm just imagining, like, was he going to do an accent? Because I'm just in my head thinking about, like, I'm the best at what I do, and what I do isn't very nice. And just, he's terrible at Mission Impossible 2, though. He's absolute garbage. So maybe.
So you're telling me I shouldn't waste time revisiting?
Only for completion's sake, if you're going to do the whole run. That's the only reason why I should ever watch 2.
It's got the banging soundtrack, though, right? You got the Limp Bizkit song, and Metallica. You got that one?
I don't know if the Metallica song played in the movie. The Limp Bizkit one kind of did, although no lyrics though. It was just the instrumental part of it.
Gotcha. Anyways, this is how much we love JSAs. We're talking about the Mission Impossible movie.
There's just not a lot to say. They're like, Khalid's kind of holding up the barriers and whatnot, but then when the Injustice Society show up and tackle everyone and, like, you know, start killing Wildcat, Khalid's barriers break down. So the tower gets destroyed from the outside, and Wildcat gets stabbed through the back from Copperhead. It's not though. That's what I thought it was.
That's Lady Cobra.
Lady Cobra. There you go. Like, keeping track of all these C-list villains in JSA can be quite hard sometimes, okay?
For sure. But also, Wildcat mentions to the fog guy that looks like the evil version of Sandman. He goes, "I thought Dodds killed you back in the day." So there's definitely some timey-wimey going on here, how all these villains are together.
Which, by the way, there's an editor's note for that saying it was in that Sandman mini that came out a year or two ago. So that's actually a reference to something that was written recently. But yeah, so the young characters are all arguing back at the base about what young Wildcat did specifically. And then the old heroes come in holding Wildcat's dead body. Like, Alan's holding him in his arms, and he's like, Wildcat is dead. And next time we're getting a funeral. I can only hope it's slowing down next issue, because this first arc has been just like kind of a chore to get through, because it's just such a mess with so much going on. It's been poorly defined and explained that I haven't cared about anything. And now Wildcat's apparently dead, and I feel like I should care about that, and I don't.
He had 9 lives. He used up all of them.
What's that from? That was an accent. You were quoting.
That's Randy Quaid in Christmas Vacation when the cat chews through the Christmas lights.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
Lamb. As someone that likes Wildcat, I feel like this death's not befitting. You know what I mean? He gets stabbed through the back. Wildcat needs to die on his feet. So there's also this weird thing with Hourman and Jesse Quick arguing and how she feels empty. So, like, that hasn't really been addressed. We just know that Jesse feels off.
I was assuming that was something to do with Sorrow being nearby or something. Like, I don't know, like something that they're doing, but I don't.
But being the preeminent Jesse Quick fan, I remember her. She's not acting like herself, and I don't think it's because Sorrow. I feel like there is something going on here that, you know, it's probably Sorrow. Probably involves Johnny Sorrow, but I don't think it's necessarily that. I think there's more to come from this, but it was just oddly placed in here. You know, like, yeah, man, this book's a mess.
Especially
and not in a fun way.
Especially when you consider the fact that like Alan, Jay, Wildcat, and Khalid were just kind of in the Tower of Fate for the entire arc. Like they were just in that one location the entire time. Nothing interesting was going on, and yet it felt like we spent a lot of pages on them just kind of like fighting and debating the fact that they were fighting with the forces outside.
Well, and Surtur destroys the tower as well of Fate.
Yeah,
it comes down around him, and then Wotan steals the helm, which that can't be good.
Yeah, they've got the helmet. Yeah, they've got the helmet of Fate. So. But it's amazing how little I care about any of this, though. Is the sad part. Like I don't give a shit. It's a real shame, and I am going to read the next issue because I'm just hoping that now that this first arc's out the way, that this was all the setup for the good stuff that Lemire's going to do. But goddamn, like if this wasn't Lemire, I would have dropped it by now. Like it's getting some extra time to grab me because it's Jeff Lemire, and I'm like assuming that it can be better, but. Yeah, this is a shame. This is definitely disappointing for sure. I mean, I know it started last year, but when we get to the end of the year and we're talking about disappointments of the year, this is going to be well in the conversation
for sure. And I just feel like with some slight alterations, it might be better. So I don't know what the end game is here. I feel like I trust Lemire to have a plan, and there's a reason that these shotgunning so much stuff out for right now. But you said I hope it slows down. And over the next arc or two, we start getting, some more fulfilling resolution to a lot of this.
Yeah. I can only hope it gets better. Art is okay. I remember last time Connor was on, he said that sometimes you get a bit of a John Romita Jr. vibe to some of the faces, and that is still definitely there. It's kind of just fine, and no more to my taste. Yeah. I'm just deflated about it. I just don't think it's very good, and it's a real shame because like Lemire seemed like a good pick for JSA, and we'd been wanting a JSA book for so long. We kind of had one with Johns, which was okay for a bit, but was oddly paced and kind of got delayed a lot. And it was like, okay, but this is going to be the real JSA run that we can get excited about, and it's just been very, very like decent at best, like, mostly mediocre.
Yeah, after the Jay Garrick book, I was really riding high for Jeremy Adams, but if Adams takes JSA, we don't get Green Lantern, and I'm thoroughly enjoying Green Lantern more than most things right now. So, as much as I would love to see another creative team on this, let's let it play out with Lemire. It's just, we'll just keep talking about how sad and disappointed we are.
Yeah. Also, I can't help but notice that Discord's like doing a better job at keeping that garbage truck a little bit quieter.
Yeah, to be fair, it's the first one, and that one's further away. Okay. So we'll see when the real.
All right, we'll see
when the real one shows up.
We'll see what it's like when it gets close. All right.
How to handle the dogs barking? Did it sound super loud?
Oh, I didn't hear dogs
when they first started. Perfect. Then it's working. Yeah. It is working. It's filtering out the back.
All right, Matt. What are you giving JSA?
Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to give it a 6.
I'm not even going that high. I think I will give it a 5. I think it is a very mediocre book right now, and it's a shame. Just a bummer. All right. Poison Ivy 32, WIllow Wilson writing with Brian Level on the art. All right, Matt. Go on. Be a perv. Take it away.
All right. So this picks up where the last one let off with essentially the soul of Marshview in this reborn plant elemental through the body of Ed Cooper with all the bad things that had happened. And Ivy and Peter Undine are trying to fight it, but it's essentially just like this rage golem, and there's nothing they can do. Like Undine tries to use his poison touch, and it works for a second, and then the creature pushes through the poison and grabs him. So Ivy starts using some of her plant powers to keep him at bay. Her and Undine start working together, where Undine is able to do this or he has this ability because of how he was created. He can alter inorganic compounds that are plant based. So Undine and Ivy try to create a cage, right? And it works for a second, before Undine's like, the rage is too strong. I can feel it reaching through the green, trying to get out. Like, this is basically just a monster. So my effects won't do anything. It breaks back out, and Ivy's like, this is not right because this is a monster, but I'm also a monster. So maybe we should alter how we go about this. And when she hesitates, she gets hit with one of the vines. Janet's watching from the sidelines. She runs over to help Ivy, who got knocked down, and the creature grabs her and breaks her back. Just big scoop, grabs her, which then makes Ivy tap into her anger. And this is where we get the talk of anger has a bad reputation, but there's nothing more motivating than when you're properly angry. And sometimes anger is your best weapon. So Ivy starts creating these vines coming up out of the cemetery that pull this creature down back to the earth, and it neutralizes it. But Janet's back is broken, and Ivy can't do anything to help. So Ivy runs into the mist, into the forest, and starts calling out for the Bog Venus. And it's like, look, I know you're listening. I know you hate me. I know you think I'm an abomination, and I don't work with the green, but I really need your help. Prove that I'm wrong. And the Bog Venus comes out and is like, I don't have to listen to you. I'm a plant elemental. You're just merely a girl with plant powers. And I don't get beckoned like this. You're lucky I'm even answering. And Ivy proposes a trade. And in this trade is that she'll, because she spoke with Xylon, who's the big avatar of the gray, and Xylon wants to have a meeting. But because Ivy's kind of that bridge, they can't talk with Xylon. And so Ivy uses that to get Bog Venus to come up and try to help Janet. And Janet's barely hanging on. She is looking worse for wear, and the Bog Venus comes up and is like, wait, you can't be this blind to Pam. She's already changing from being around you. She is no longer purely human. And through that, she says she's in the act of becoming. And so through that, Ivy's able to use some of the plant powers with Bog Venus to not resurrect exactly, but more resuscitate Janet. And because of this, the Bog Venus looks over and sees what had happened to the creature. And while it's fighting out, she ends up absorbing whatever power from the green that created it back into herself. And the creature becomes like this husk and blows away like dead leaves. Because Janet's been saved, Ivy now has to keep up her end of the bargain, and the Bog Venus pulls Ivy into herself, and it makes for this very kind of comical scene where Bog Venus is shoving Ivy directly into her chest. And Ivy's like, I know how weird this looks, but when you've done this as long as I have, you get used to communications of plant-based life forms. And the Bog Venus pulls her into this realm of the green, but it's not like one that Pam has experienced. So when it shows Pam, she has almost like this, it's her poison ivy kind of costume, but it's more done up to be, more plant-like, kind of how she was when she fought Woodrue, all those arcs ago. And Bog Venus tells her that, this is actually the pure green. This is what it's like when you're untethered to humankind. And Ivy doesn't really like it because she starts to lose sense of who she really is. And so she tells Bog Venus that, Xylon wants to have a peace, right? That the green and the gray should be working together because there's only one planet. And if that one planet dies because the humans aren't taking care of it, that's not good for anybody. And Bog Venus, who now kind of takes the form of this big face made out of different plants. It's kind of cool. It's very abstract. But she rejects this and is like, oh, of course that's what he would want. right? The Gray is always trying to weasel in. You know, we've been at this for eons. And, you know, peace without justice is the same as tyranny. And now the Gray only wants peace on its own terms. And, you know, if it takes that the humans dying off this planet and killing it for the Green to, you know, rise and become the predominant, then that's what it'll take. And you know, basically tells Ivy that we're not going to do anything. We're not going to broker a thing with the Gray at all. You know, you think that you're this all-important thing, but I've been here longer than anybody. And up until the Gray confesses to its crimes, we're not doing anything, and throws Pam out back into the graveyard, and that's where the issue ends. And Pam's final words is, you know, well, I guess that's so much for diplomacy. The arts by Brian Level, not great as Takara, but still, you know, the creatures look fantastic. And the way that the way that he draws Bog Venus, where when the Bog Venus shows up in that husk that looks like Swamp Thing, it's very just like a big, you know, it's like a big bunch of plant matter. You can't really tell. It's vines and moss and whatever. But when she shows herself in this representation of the Green, the face that comes out, you know, the abstract kind of made out of plants, it looks really, really cool. But yeah, I'll be happy to have Takara back, because that's always the strength of this of the issue, as the art. But yeah, another solid issue. I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
That is good. I am just posting something on Blue Sky.
Got you.
So,
That's talking too much. Oh, please.
So I'm stalling.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm just telling someone to look up something.
Gotcha.
Because they mentioned they're watching Predator 2, and I'm telling them to go watch Gary Busey explain the plot of Predator 2, because it's the best thing on the internet.
Done and done. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to look that up. I love Busey.
Have you not seen this? Oh,
I have not seen this.
His description of he tries to describe what the characters are trying to do in Predator, and at one point he says, we're trying to find this being, because if we can find them, then we can talk to him, and we can reason with them. And I'm like, what are you talking about, Gary? What have you read the script? Like, you're on the set of the movie. What are you talking about? It's like a minute long. It's not long.
So, he was coked to the gills, so what he read was completely different from what everybody else did.
It's absolutely wild.
Oh, that's great. No, if you can bleed, you can kill it. No, if it can bleed, you can reason with it. That's not how Predator works. Oh, Busey's the best.
The chaos. The chaos indeed. Yes. I'm pretty sure I mentioned Gary Busey last week as well. We're 2 weeks in a row for Busey.
Hey, you know, if this becomes a runner, I'm okay with it. Because again, I enjoy Gary Busey more than most. Did you ever watch I'm with Busey when it was on?
I did not know.
Where I still don't know. It was a fake reality show, but it was on Comedy Central, and it was essentially Gary Busey having a reality show where he went around with his assistant, and he would just cause chaos, and the assistant would have to clean up after him. It's like 6 or 7 episodes. Me and my brother loved it, and to this day we still have a more than natural fondness of Gary Busey, more than just for his acting, whole character.
Interesting. Anyway, let's get us on to Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma, Issue 1, Ramvi writing, and Anand Radhakrishnan, if I'm saying that right, on the
close
art.
Enough.
So, yeah, this is a curious one. It's obviously kind of a weird DC property. I assume it might have been originally Vertical or Wildstorm or something back in the day.
I'm pretty sure it was Vertigo.
Yeah, that feels right, just based on what it is.
Yeah.
But you know, I had a vague understanding of Resurrection Man. I think I read the first 2 issues of the New 52 series back when it launched. So I know he obviously keeps coming back to life, and every time he comes back to life, he comes back with a new power. I don't think I knew, or maybe this wasn't the case in the New 52 book, but I don't think I knew that the power was always related to how he died, before he went.
Yeah. That's a cool, if that's a wrinkle that Ramvi added, that's really cool. I like that.
I don't know if it is. I could see that have been in the original Vertical thing, but I don't know. I'm just sort of, it seems like something that might have been there, but Ram V was smart enough to realize that most people wouldn't know what Resurrection Man is. So the first page gives you a nice little refresher, a nice little rundown of who this guy is. And then it sort of gets a little bit meta because it's actually someone reading the comic book. And the opening scene or two is basically the idea that he has actually lived to an old age. He married into a family. He's got like stepchildren and a grandkid even now. And he's in a hospital bed dying, and the family's saying their goodbyes. His wife is saying, "You've brought joy to us all." And it's all just very this sad thing. But that night, the old man, like, pulls out his IV and whatnot and, like, escapes out the window to go die in a field because he doesn't want as much as this, like, the missing body will freak them out, him being a younger, healthier man in the morning will freak them out more. So he's like, okay, that life's over. I have to go and die. So he goes and dies in a forest. And then he wakes up, resurrects into the younger, I don't know what ages might he be typically, but 30, let's say. So it's like, all right, so he's alive again. And this is obviously where it gets a little bit weird, and there's like another voice starts talking to him. Some guy in a red cloak, which pulls him into a space that's outside of time and space with lots of gears, and basically claims to be the original version of him, possibly from a different universe. And that I don't know, like this got big and heady because it's Ram V, so of course it is. Yeah. It gets into this whole idea of what they're here for, and like definitely it's playing with time. And then most of the issue actually is like hey, we have to figure out how you're going to get to where I am, and it flashes back, and the rest of the issue is in New Guinea when he was a prisoner of war during World War II, and it focuses on this military guy who was like running the prison camp. This Kagawa is his name, and it's the tail end of World War II, because part of the story is they hear that Hitler's is killed himself in Germany, so we're right kind of in that part of the war. And Resurrection Man talks about how he's not like really been getting his powers recently. Something is strange there. It's not been working the way it's supposed to. And we also find out this bad guy is like literally eats some of the prisoners, like he's into cannibalism, and says we're going to feast. So some prisoners get taken off and cut up and cooked and whatnot.
So we're gonna feast. I was like, I hope that doesn't mean what I think it means. And then it meant what I thought it meant. I was like, oh my god. Okay, we're going there.
Yeah, I didn't jump to that conclusion. I just like had to accept it when he said it. But it's a whole thing. Yeah. So Resurrection Man is the victim, and he is like put into a burning pit, still alive, on fire. And when he wakes up, sure enough, he has fire powers. Right? He comes out with that ability because that's how he died. His powers are back. And maybe I missed something. I don't know if they were trying to tie something into the idea that like whatever was blocking his powers was maybe tied to Hitler in some way, and it's because Hitler's gone.
Yeah, so you just reminded me because I was looking up Resurrection Man to find out the stuff, and when he came out. So Resurrection Man has only been around since '97. I thought it went further back, but
okay.
Anyways, yeah, it was Hitler had the Spear of Destiny, and that's how they kept the superheroes off of the board during World War II, which is actually kind of a smart way to do that. I think that's been the plot of a Justice Society book at one point.
It also ties into like a lot of the idea of Hitler going after the occult and things like that, stuff that they use in Raiders and stuff. So it kind of ties into all that mythology.
There was that whole group, and I forget their name off the top of my head. I used to know that of the Nazis that were out there looking for all that stuff, like for real.
The Nazis? Is that your playful term for Nazis?
Yes, the Nazis. So. But yeah, so once Hitler is dead and is no longer in possession of his powers kick back in.
We don't know who's got the spear. I think they say that's a mystery where the Spear of Destiny went, but that seems to have like unlocked Resurrection Man's abilities. And sure enough, he comes out with flames all around him, burns the entire camp to the ground, and then the ending is that when like the firefighters or whoever are going through all the rubble and stuff. They find someone who looks really bad but is still technically alive and breathing, and it's the bad guy. It's Kagawa, Sohei Kagawa. So this cannibalistic military dude seems like he's going to be a running villain of some kind.
Yeah.
It's kind of excited to see where that goes, but there was a lot to take in here, and I did a bit of a disservice to it by reading it last. So when I was getting to those panels where there was just like a big paragraph of text, I'm like, oh, I think I might have been better off reading this early just to like take it in better.
So I've learned that with Ram V. Don't put Ram V off until last, because if you're in a rush, you're gonna miss out. Yeah, so the stuff here with this guy, and it seems like, so in real life history, man, people don't realize how bad Japan was back in there and during the Axis powers, and they had their own type of camps that they did very terrible acts on, and I wonder if this is based in part on that, and almost like this guy is a personification of all the evil things that had happened.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's overseeing this camp, and I mean, he's eating people, and and it's almost as if now when Resurrection Man got his powers back, it kicked something to him. So now they're at two ends of a line, right? And that, they're almost like in the movie Unbreakable, right? Where if there's a guy that's unbreakable, then there's a man that has to be breakable, right? And I feel like here, because they talk about when the reason that the Kagawa is the way he is that his dad was very protective over him and never wanted him to be sick, and kind of sheltered him from the world. Where's all of that at? Because they get into it throughout. It's because he had only been born with a functioning lung. So his dad never wanted him to be sick, and he was catered to, and he never experienced things. So he got very cerebral, and he raised made his way up into the position that he's at now.
Yeah. There's a couple of details here. One is that Resurrection Man doesn't necessarily always remember his previous lives, so it's kind of unique that he does now. Also, this red hooded version that says, "I am the first of us. I am Sesha," he says his name is. "I'm the first of us," and he says that there's some entity he has sought his eye on this place and wants to end everything, right? Wants to end the universe and everything in it. I don't know if that's setting up that this Japanese military dude is going to somehow become this entity. Just because he said something about he who shall eat all of existence, and that word "eat" kind of stuck out to me on hindsight. Once we get this guy who's eating the prisoners, I thought, is that a intentional connection? This is still very up in the air, and all this like visuals of this like place outside of time, where it's all just gears of a clock, and it's all very complex. It does remind me a lot of when Ramvi was playing with the idea of like the industry being one of the like the key things, like the green and the red. It kind of makes me think of that a little bit. Yeah. Yeah,
the Parliament of Gears, I believe that was called.
That's what it was, yeah. That was the name.
Yes. Well, and so here he says, "Welcome to Samsara." So Samsara in different belief systems, right? It says in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Sikhism, it's the cyclical nature of birth, death, and rebirth driven by karma. And the goal is to achieve liberation from the cycle through enlightenment.
Interesting.
Right? So that's a piece of, I remember when I got really into Buddhism when I was younger, that was one of the things is samsara and nirvana is that enlightenment and breaking of that cycle. So yeah, here, if that's what's happening, right? But it seems like the cycle here is beneficial to Resurrection Man, right? So I wonder if this guy will break that cycle, and that's why they have to, they need to keep that cycle going.
The whole idea of karma, though, really, obviously it's in the title of the book, but it definitely kind of feels like, we're getting this really villainous guy, and he's going to try and get away with a lot of things, and I wonder, like, with him being alive here at the end, is he somehow resurrected in some way? I know it's kind of almost lazy to say, is he just an evil Resurrection Man? But I do wonder if they're kind of maybe going to play with that a little bit. Or maybe we'll find out that the evil Resurrection Man is just another universe's Resurrection Man. Maybe it'll just literally be him, but from a different place. I don't know. But it definitely felt like they were setting up this Saragawa guy. Kagawa. It was Serai Kagawa, right? I'm trying to remember his name.
Sorry,
yeah. Kagawa, I think it really feels like they're setting him up, and I think one of my favorite bits in the art in this book is actually that page where he's just talking to his soldier and he's smirking as he's saying that he wants to have a feast and whatnot, because it's just so sinister and moody, and he feels like the most evil piece of shit like imaginable. Like, he feels more villainous than most comic book villains do, and he's just sitting at a table talking. And the art really sells that idea. And then obviously the art's really good because you also get those big insane visuals of the, you know, Resurrection Man on fire and being destructive, and that feels like almost like a karma thing as well. Like, okay, this place did all these atrocities, so he just like rises up and burns it all to the ground.
Yeah,
really good stuff.
He raises it because they said that they thought that it was an Allied bombing because of how destroyed everything was. So yeah. Also, Shesha in certain languages means remainder, right? So if that's what he is, he's the last one, right? So he needs to make sure the cycle keeps going,
right? And that's the Resurrection Man in red that takes him to the time place. Okay. Yeah. Interestingly, there's like I thought it was just a cover that had no colors yet at the end for issue 2, but there's actually like several preview pages that are black and white. I'm not going to look too closely at them. It does look as a Justice League on the cover though, and it's a very mid-90s Justice League by the looks of.
There is Kyle with the full crab mask and Electric Superman. It is for sure. Yeah,
we're going full 90s next issue.
But also, this Jackson Butch Geis that is doing the art. He's the original artist for Resurrection Man.
Really?
From back in the 90s.
Oh, that is interesting.
So the fact that Ram V is bringing him in that way, I think that's super, super cool.
Yeah, that is interesting. That makes me think that there's probably going to be some direct like continuity with that original series. And I also think that this book definitely feels like it's setting up for this idea that each issue we're going to explore a different resurrection from his past. Like, so this was the 40s, maybe we'll get one in the 50s next issue, so on and so on.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're going to the 90s next because that's, you know, we're seeing this 90s Justice League. Maybe we'll bounce around a little bit to whatever's relevant.
Yeah.
But I'm intrigued. Like a lot of Ram V books, like there's enough cool ideas here that my inspiration is sparked. My imagination is sparked, rather, I should say. And I find it really fascinating. I think that's one of the things that Ram V is really good with, is that he'll present a really complex idea, but he'll sort of give you all enough of the kernels to kind of get your mind going, kind of get excited by the possibilities, and just present it in a way that has like an aura and a mystique around it that feels larger than life, and it usually works quite well when Ram V does it. So it would be really interesting to go back and read that original Resurrection Man now, the Vertigo series. I wonder like how good it's considered. I don't know who wrote it, like, or you know, but curious all the same.
It was Abnett and Lanning, actually.
Really?
So,
okay, interesting.
Yep.
That could go either way.
Yeah, I'm also looking at the artist that works that's doing this with Ram V, and it looks like he works on a lot of the independents that Ram V does on. So like the Blue and Green.
That makes sense.
And the Death of Layla Starr. So I'm glad that they can work together here. The Vigil comes up as well. So but no, very cool. I'm excited. I like the way that Ram V addresses like almost like this modern mythology. He uses like real life events, right? So like in Swamp Thing, that whole back arc was centered around the Trinity explosion and what that created, right? And the new ideas that had come from it. And yet the Parliament of Gears and all this other thing. And yes, we can tell this really fun superhero story, but there's this way of creating modern myths out of it that Ram V just is so adept at doing.
I mean,
I'm curious to see what.
Honestly, like I think his detective and his Catwoman, you can say that about. I don't think his Swamp Thing is a good superhero story, which is not a critique. I'm not saying it's a bad superhero story. I'm saying that it's not interested in being a superhero story. It's like that's him going full Ram V, and I feel like with New Gods, with this, with the Vigil, even like in Swamp Thing, I feel like he's really just, you know, spreading his wings and doing the type of storytelling that he's doing, and he's been allowed to do it, which is great, and like they've all been really good to amazing, frankly. So I am all for this. Like, this is the sort of thing where if you just said, "Oh, Resurrection Man's getting a comic book," I wouldn't have been excited at all. But then you put Ram V's name on it, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, what are the ideas here?" Because he's always got ideas, and they're always fascinating to me.
Yes. Ram V's one of those writers that instantly that I don't care what it is. I'm like, oh, working on that, okay. Well, I'll definitely check it out. But it always ends up working to our advantage though too, because it's always something interesting to talk about. And I can't tell you when the last time there was a Ram V book that I didn't enjoy. Right? Like they're not all like 5-star top of the line, but they're all good. Like going all the way back to Justice League Dark, you know. So
yeah, well, I wasn't reading that, so I only jumped on with his Catwoman, but I've not been disappointed since then.
No, not at all. And this is cool. Like you said, yeah, it's Resurrection Man. That's cool. It's like a 90s, you know, Vertigo character, and you're like, oh, we're working with karma and resurrection and cycles, and I'm like, yeah, I want to see what Ram V has to say about that.
Oh no, this is officially a Black Label book. They've not branded this as Vertigo. They've branded this as Black Label, which fair enough. But
yes,
I was curious there. I thought maybe it would actually still be called Vertigo on the cover, but it's not. All right, now very good. I'm excited to see this. I'm looking forward to issue 2. I think this is something that's going to get really thick with ideas as it goes on. So, what are you rating Resurrection Man Quantum Karma?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
I think I gotta go 9. Not even going to justify it. I've said my piece. That's Resurrection Man.
And also, I misspoke. It seems like it was just in DC. It wasn't even Vertigo.
Oh, okay.
So I wonder if there was a Vertigo version later. But yeah, it's just DC. So even better.
Okay, cool. All right. Two-Face, issue 5. Christian Ward writing with Fabio Veras on the art. I gotta admit, Matt, I'm losing my patience a little bit.
Yep, it feels like this was supposed to have more issues and he had to adjust. Because there's a lot that happens here. There's a lot of empty space. Not empty space, but it feels like a lot of time has happened in between and a lot of revelations that happen here. And it has definitely lost its steam.
Yeah, also, I feel like Dai shows up. This character, Dai, this young woman who's like Two-Face's daughter. And I'm like, she's not been set up at all in this book. And it's treating her like she's this big, huge deal coming into this. And like a lot of the issue revolves around her once she does show up. And I'm like, you know what? I don't feel anything for this at all. And, you know, all the Harvey stuff at this point is that Harvey's got himself chained up and he's got a beard now because it's been so long since the last issue. So that he's kind of basically treating himself like a werewolf. You know, he's like, hey, lock me up like it's a full moon so that I can't go out and do anything as Two-Face. I'm locked in this room. And he's got the young woman that was introduced in issue 1, Lake, acting as his like voice and surrogate to run the whole like, you know, courtroom thing. Which, like, I really liked her introduction in issue 1, and I thought it was really setting up an interesting like supporting character who was going to have a lot to do in this book. But I was finding myself, even though she's presented in this issue with the most page time and the most like important stuff to do that she's had since issue 1, it all feels so rushed that it was leaving me feel a little bit deflated, where I was like, I was excited for your progression, and I feel like we've just jumped to like you in this role, and I just don't feel like I buy it. You're just kind of here to witness all the things that happen with Dai rather than really play like a big role in like changing anything, it seems like. So
yeah, although there is some qualities that I do like with Lake and Dai, in that Dai is Harvey's, it seems like, not Harvey's, is Two-Face's daughter, right? Inspired by, like, they're not saying this is his actual kid, right? It's just someone that's taken inspiration from
I think
Two-Face.
so, yeah.
Right? And then you have Lake, who is almost Harvey's kid, right? Because there's the pages here that I'm looking at, it's where they flip the coin, and they're on opposite ends of the page there, and they feel like almost copies of each other in the way that Harvey and Two-Face are.
Like I like that from a stylistic design, but I just don't think it. Like, I think that
it doesn't land.
Dai shows up out of nowhere here and just feels like a surprise guest star, and Lake has not had enough development. So this, frankly, just did like. Well, I appreciate like what it's going for. I just don't think it lands. Like you said,
and so because like there are pieces that I really want to latch onto and that I like, and then I'm just like, this is a big mess. Like they're burning down this casino, and Dai shows up, and instead of a coin, she uses a die to make decisions, but they're already kind of like the odds are always in her favor, and there's just a lot going on. And like you said with Lake, there hasn't been enough build up to make any of this interesting.
So what's happening here is that there's a trial happening. They're using this casino as the courtroom, and Dai shows up to crash it, and she's doing this because she's demanding to know where Two-Face is, because she's not seen Two-Face in some time, and that's what she wants. And Dai or Lake tries to make a bet with her to try and like get her to turn away or whatever, and she actually stabs Lake. Dai eventually stabs Lake, and that's when Two-Face finally shows up and like grabs her. And there's like an interesting little bit here where Dai can tell that it's not really him, that it's actually Harvey faking being Two-Face, and she feels really defeated by that. And that's an interesting idea, given that he's been trying to pretend to everyone that he's still Two-Face, right? To scare everyone. And now that the word might get out, that's like a big deal from a plot perspective. But we have spent so much of the last like 3 issues inside Harvey's head, rather than what's going on in the real world with the plot of him trying to conceal who he really is and keep everyone convinced that he's the scary Two-Face. That this just doesn't feel like it's been what the book's been focusing on. Like, that was a really cool idea. See, back in issue 1 when they set up that he's not really Two-Face right now, he's just Harvey pretending to be Two-Face, but he's trying to use that credibility that Two-Face has in the underworld to like have a court system to try and like deal with things in a peaceful way, in a very measured way, and keep the chaos at a minimum. And it felt like a really cool concept, and watch him try to run that with this new apprentice character was a really cool premise to set up. And then it was also not that bad of an idea to say, hey, Two-Face is kind of trapped in his head and we're going to maybe see a little bit of that from time to time. But then we spent like 3 issues almost entirely in his head, with like Two-Face looking at the big angel type character who was represented his mother or something, and all that weird in the head stuff. So by the time we're getting back to this and we're actually continuing some of this plot, it just doesn't feel like we've done enough with it to make it feel like a big deal. Like, see if we'd seen him like struggling and like pulling off different cases over a few issues, it might feel like a big deal that it's all about to end. But instead it feels like we've barely done anything with it since you introduced it, so I'm just kind of underwhelmed.
And I kind of like that it was going to be, like, I thought it was going to be Harvey going through these different cases and bringing justice to the underworld. And not justice in, like, the Batman way, but, like, yeah, we're all bad guys here, but we still have to do, you know, we still, there's still rules that we have to abide by, you know? And then that Lake was going to be kind of his investigator and pulling these threads where it was almost like I thought it was going to the fact that Two-Face is playing both sides against each other. Right, because ultimately that's his thing, and now I have no idea what's going on here. Like Two-Face wants to get out, right? But Harvey has him locked up still. So, but he did get out because that's what the whole point of the maze is, and Harvey doesn't know where he is, which doesn't make sense.
Well, the reveal last issue is that Two-Face has been taking control at certain points, and Harvey's just not known about it, right? And that's why he's trained himself up. So it's like, okay, that's fine as an idea, but like they just didn't focus on all the other interesting things they set up, that it just doesn't feel like they used any of it properly. So this issue ends with Lake waking up in a hospital and Harvey saying you're going to be okay, and he says he's got a plan, he just has to talk to someone, and the final page is Harvey meeting with Batman, and that's the cliffhanger for the final issue coming up. And I feel like I should read the final issue just because it is the last one, so I might as well finish it now. But I have to admit, I'm not very excited. Like I feel like I'm doing it out of just like I don't know, obligation at this point.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm definitely I made it this far. I'm not gonna, if it's a last issue, I'm definitely gonna read it. Yep. Let's flip a coin here. Let's roll some dice. That's the other thing, is the idea of the die being the thing. I'm like, it's a little bit too on the nose, you know, for the character. Like, I don't know.
I just really was deflated by this issue quite a bit. Like issue 1 was really good, and I don't think any of the follow-up issues were as good, right? There was definitely not as strong a thing, but you were still kind of like seeing good qualities and hoping it would get back to what made issue 1 feel so good. But I think this being the penultimate issue, and the way it handles everything just kind of makes me go, oh, I'm not going to get anything that even comes close to issue 1.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like, okay, well, instead of the potential of a good series, which we had at the start, now it's just kind of like, well, it's mediocre overall at best now. And that's a shame.
It's coasting into an ending that's not fulfilling at all, because I remember Ward saying if this sold well, then it would get more issues, and I feel like it's just not going to.
The sad part is, though, is I think that if he'd just taken out a lot of the more self-indulgent in his head stuff, it might have had like a compelling, well-paced story for 6 issues. But as it is, it just feels like now we're rushing what plot there is left to finish up. So.
Yeah.
All right. What are you rating Two-Face?
This is 6.5.
6 for me. There we go. All right. That'll take us out the final part of the show. We'll pick our favorite moment / panel of the week, favorite cover, favorite art in our top 5 books. So Matt, what is your panel / moment of the week?
I mean, there's a week with a Barda book out, and it would be very easy for Barda showing up in the UAE and wanting to do things. However, one moment in particular really got me, and that was where Clark picks up the tractor in Absolute Superman. And they have the conversation about, you saved my Jonathan, and then Jonathan says that you saved my Martha, and that whole sequence right there really tugged on my heartstrings and made for a very good read. So that one's mine. Yeah,
it's good stuff. I don't know what I want to go with. I really like Cash using the bats in Batgirl. I really like some stuff. The ending in Absolute Superman's a fun reveal. Birds of Prey's got some fun moments. Some really standout art from Resurrection Man. I think, though, I'm going to go with Absolute Green Lantern, and I'm going to go with the build up to the death of the cop, because I think that's just such a well done sequence. That I want to kind of shout it out and say that. So while I don't think because of the faces I'll ever pick that artist for best art, I can pick a moment because I think the moments are handled really well.
Big moments are good. Yeah.
All right, for cover, I was looking while you were talking about Ivy, which is always nice to have. I'm going to mention one honorable mention, which is Batgirl's main cover. I really like, with Cass and Shiva tied up. I just think it looks cool. Some bats flying around as well. My pick for cover of the week, though, is a variant for Resurrection Man by Dan Panosian. It is stunning. It's so Resurrection Man's got like a blindfold on, and there's a skull clock above him, and it's just really detailed, and there's all these like hanging clocks or stopwatches all sort of dangling down, and one's like dangled right in front of where his eye would be. It's just gorgeous. It's just a gorgeous cover.
It almost looks like when they put coins on the eyes of corpse, right?
Yeah.
It almost looks like that. So definitely playing with that theme.
Yeah,
it's real cool.
Really like that one. What you got?
All right, so there was a couple. There's an Absolute Superman. That's by Rod Reese, and it's a typical Superman image of Superman going over the moon, but it's the absolute version, so the cape looks a little bit different, and there's just some fun color contrast because the background's blue, he's all red, and I just think it looks really cool. There's a Birds cover by Serge Acuna that I'm trying to make it load, but it's all of the birds in different it looks like monitors, and it makes out like an outline of a bird of prey. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. But my pick's going to be the Juliet NECA version for Absolute Green Lantern that has Joe on the cover. It looks like there's some like wisps of green energy going around. It just looks really cool. So that one's going to be mine.
Cool. All right. What was your art of the week?
Oof. This one's a little bit tough because I really did like Giandomenico for Absolute Superman. I mean, the art in Two-Face is probably the easiest, or the easiest is probably the best thing about it. By Veras, enjoyed. Basri for Birds is always good, but without Takara, I think I'm gonna give it to Batgirl. Miyazawa. The thing that's this week.
Yeah, I think for me it's between that Batgirl and Resurrection Man. I think those are the two that are really I mean, obviously Basri's good in Birds, and there's other good art for sure, but I think those are the two that are speaking to me the most. But I think, I'm going to go with Resurrection Man, just because it's part of it's because it's also new and fresh as well, and it's heavily detailed, and there's a nice variety of like art in it. So I'm going to go with that. All right, top 5 books, Matt.
All right, so number 1 is going to be Absolute Superman. Number 2 is going to be Batgirl. 3 Resurrection Man. 4 Birds of Prey, and 5 Absolute Green Lantern. And those are all very log jammed up around each other. So
yeah, my number 1 is Resurrection Man. My number 2 is Birds of Prey. My number 3 is Absolute Superman. My number 4 is Absolute Green Lantern. Number 5, Batgirl. Yeah, I think I'll go with that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, very healthy. Except for, I mean, very convenient. The 2 books that didn't make it are the 2 that I didn't really like that much. But still, you know what? If I got 5 good books in a week, then it's not a bad week. So by any stretch. So I'll tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics. We have Absolute Batman issue 7, which is a start of a 2-part Mr. Freeze story. So that should be cool. We got Action Comics 1085. We got Batman and Robin 20. We have Batman Dark Patterns issue 5. Very Batman heavy week. We got Aquaman issue 4. I'm not really looking forward to that, to be honest.
Mermaids.
Stupid Laurie, whatever her name is.
Lamaris. Get it right.
Yeah. Bend bitch. Anyway, Green Lantern Corps issue 3. DC versus Vampires World War V issue 8. DC Horror presents Creature Commandos issue 6. Fire and Ice When Hell Freezes Over issue 1. As well as some reprints, facsimiles, et al. So, they're not a super busy week either. Again, kind of similar in size. But I'm excited for Absolute Batman and Batman and Robin and Dark Patterns especially. And Green Lantern Corps. So, yeah, a lot of Bat books that look good next week. Which is
Action Comics is WIllow Wilson with Gavin Goodry art. So...
Oh yeah, okay. So we've got another 3-issue thing before we get to just Wade being on the book. Then okay, interesting.
Yep. Very excited for Dark Patterns and Batman and Robin though. Those are 2 of my favorite books that week. But yeah, it's really stacked. And then there's Aquaman. You know?
Yeah. I mean, Action Comics is kind of up in the air, but yeah, hopefully it's better than the last thing. Yeah, and I don't even think I'm even considering trying that Fire and Ice book. I don't know how you feel on the matter.
Nah, I fell into that before. That's a great cover though. No, I'm not doing it.
He's getting tempted.
It's not funny. It's not funny to do that bit anymore. But it's Fire and Ice. No, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, there was previews at the back of some of the issues this week as well, and I can't say that it was making me want to check it out, to be honest.
Nah.
Yeah, if you're going to enjoy the book, happy for you. Have a good time. But I think I'm good. Thank you. But that is the show, everyone. Obviously, you can subscribe, and all that stuff. Helps us out a bunch. You can help out most of all, of course, by going to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting us over there. Helps keep the show coming. Plus, you get a bunch of bonuses. Admittedly, less to do with the comic stuff, and more to do with all the movie podcasts and whatnot that I do over on YouTube and via podcast feeds. But yeah, check out MailFuzz Movies and MailFuzz TV for movie and TV reviews if that's your sort of thing. You can join the Discord if you like. Any and all help is appreciated. But mostly just hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next week for more DC comic shenanigans. So keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.